You see that? If you get a refund, you don't get your fuel on that.
You have to pay
Okay.
it.
I gotta pay it.
I think if it keeps going, they're gonna have to do an extension for everybody.
It's actually working pretty good for me because I'm getting my office gone through.
Awesome. How was your drive home, Molly?
It was decent.
Good.
It was no different than normal winter driving, so
Did you have fun?
yes, it was fun.
Good. That's cool. She was at the Capitol yesterday.
No snow down there, huh?
None.
Yeah.
Did you go to SOB while you were there? Senate office building?
No, I just went to the, I was in the Capitol building for like 2 minutes. And the inauguration was at the Fitzgerald.
Ooh.
Good morning. I will call the Cook County Board of Commissioners to order, where our mission is supporting community through quality public service. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this point, I would ask Kim Shepard, Deputy Court Administrator, to come forward and administer the oath of office for our recently elected officials.
Good morning, everybody. And it is my pleasure to administer the oath of office to the following people. Robert Deschamps, County Commissioner, District 1. David Mills, County Commissioner, District 3. Virginia Storley, County Commissioner, District 5. Pat Eliason, Cook County Sheriff. Molly Hicken, Cook County Attorney. Dusty Nelms, Cook County Recorder. And Brady Powers, the Cook County Auditor. So if you guys want to all just come out and stand in front here. Always got a couple of helpers today. Why don't you just make a roll around right in front of these guys. Perfect.
That looks good.
Okay, if you can all raise your right hands and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
the duties of the office for Cook County,
the duties of the office for Cook County,
to which I have been elected,
to which I have been elected,
to the best of my knowledge and ability.
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
So help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations and best of luck to all of you, and I will have something for you to sign here. Sign one and then just hand it back to me and
No, Kim will take care of all that.
I'll stay here. I'll just take a few more pictures.
We weren't elected, were they?
Just for now.
Yeah, you were re-elected, yep. Right.
Just newly elected commissioners and then newly elected officials. So you tell them what you need. A little bit.
David, would you mind stepping next to Commissioner Deschamps? We've got commissioners up here. Tim, can you look right at me? Big smiles, okay? Okay, and now just the office of elected officials, and then we'll do, or please do the commissioners first. Very nice, thank you. Now the office of elected officials.
Just for you. Do you want us to move, Val?
No, you're fine back there.
Very nice, thank you.
That was Jan's, I don't know.
Can I touch it?
You can, it's just a footstool. You might not want to.
You won't
You're a little
get
tall.
ejected.
Actually, I don't.
That footstool was Jan Hall's.
Oh,
Passed down.
Yeah. And now Brady Powers will oversee the nominations and election for the 2019 Cook County Board Chair.
Yes, so elections for 2019 Cook County Board Chair. I'll accept nominations now. Would someone like to make a nomination for Cook County Board Chair?
I would like to nominate Jenny Storley.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a second. Any other nominations?
I would like to nominate Commissioner Dukirk.
I'll second that.
Robert's rules, we'll vote on the first. Is that Robert's rules?
I think that's been our practice.
Yeah, so we'll vote on the first nomination.
Is there discussion beforehand?
I think we should have discussion.
I think we have two candidates.
We have two candidates.
We can have discussion and, where did she go? We can have discussion. Will we vote on the first motion first and then the second motion, or will we vote on the slate of two candidates?
Well, I mean, technically, for strict Robert's rules, we don't always follow. It's
Yes.
more informal.
Yep.
You would discuss first motion and then second motion.
Okay.
First motion, discuss, vote, second motion, discuss, vote.
Okay, discussion on the first motion.
I was hoping to hear from Commissioner Storley as far as her thoughts on being board chair and continuation of that, and what she'd like to accomplish if she had goals in mind.
Well, thank you. Yes, I feel that being board chair for the last year has given me deeper insight into how to conduct meetings, how to meet with the public, how to listen, and then move forward with discussions that we've had over the year with Committee of the Whole, going out to my district and meeting with the townships. And future goals would be to continue that observation, listening, and then listening also to our board members, of course. But the main thing is to listen to our constituents and to hopefully do as best we can, because we all have different opinions, to do the best we can in making our final decision, whether it be budget or buildings or whatever it would be that we need to deal with in the future.
Any other discussion?
I guess specifically, why would you like to be board chair?
Well, I feel that my leadership has indicated that I can carry forth a meeting, that I can listen to folks who come with their opinions about things, and I can move forward with the experience that I've had for the year. Don't go beyond a year. We just do a year at a time.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
And so now, to follow Robert's rules strictly, we would vote
We're going to,
this first.
yes. If there's no more discussion, we have a motion and a second. I'd ask for those in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed,
Nay.
motion carries.
Thank you. Mhm. Then the next election would be to discuss the vice president's position, the vice chair
The second motion
position.
is a different.
So we'll open, yes.
I hate to be first again, but
No, it's okay.
I think I should comment.
You can't carry both motions.
I had indicated to individual commissioners that I would not want to continue, if I was nominated, in going to chair from vice chair, which is somewhat typical, but it changes every year. I felt I couldn't do that based upon my assignments. That's my first responsibilities. I also indicated that it was difficult to continue as vice chair, and I'm only saying this to indicate my candidacy, that I have revisited that, and I want to thank Commissioner Mills, who's come forward and volunteered to take a couple of my assignments that involve a lot of travel to Virginia, and so I've reconsidered that, so I would like to say that I would be a candidate for vice chair.
Okay. Okay, so we will open the nominations for vice chair.
I'll nominate Commissioner Bershheim as vice chair.
You'll hear a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion?
I second.
Okay.
I really thank Commissioner Bershheim for being willing to be vice chair. Amid all our discussions before taking the oath, I know there's a good weight on you, so.
Thank you.
Okay, we've had a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yes.
Molly, I have a question. When it's not a motion and it's a nomination, it's the same? Because in the past, we've taken nominations and then voted on those who were nominated.
So they're nominated.
We've had
and-
multiple nominations of
Yeah.
more than one person for a seat, and then we choose whether that's a.
Was your first motion that carried?
It was a
That was
nomination.
also for vice chair?
No, that was for chair.
Okay.
There were 2 nominations for chair.
So the nomination passes, and that person was elected chair. For the second, you just did a vice chair.
Yep.
And that nomination passes. Was it the intent of the commissioners to actually elect the chair with that first nomination? Did people understand that that's what you were doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just that's not how we've done it in the past, so I was just asking for clarification.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's been a situation where there were multiple
Yes.
nominations for the same
There have been
chair. Okay.
numerous times.
And I'm sorry, how was that handled in the past?
Well, usually there wasn't a second, there was just a nomination, and then you you raised your hand for one or the other. So I was just asking for clarification, but that's fine.
We kind of transposed 2 processes this year. If you were opening nominations and accepting nominations and then closing nominations, you would vote on the slate of candidates nominated. And in the past, we have appointed our chair and vice chair by motion rather than by nomination. So it's, the way that we did it, so according to the action just taken, Commissioner Storley is the chair for 2019, Commissioner Bershheim is the vice chair for 2019. It's just a point of clarification if that's, if that was the intent of the votes that the board just took, then that's the action that was just taken. If we wanted to have a different process, we could identify that in the future and take nominations, formal nominations, just explaining the difference between those 2 procedures. And we haven't formally adopted Robert's rules, so we kind of follow best practice and past practice.
Okay, thank you on that. We'll make a note to clarify or to work through other details as they come about for next year. So we'll move into a public comment period. If anyone has any comments, they are welcome to come forth to the table with the microphone, and you will be allowed 5 minutes to do your presentation. And if you have written paper, you can certainly pass it on to us after you speak. So we'll have you sign in on the paper with your name, and then your 5 minutes will start after you sign in. Morning.
Good morning. I'm Steve Frickman, and Sharon is my wife. And we are on your agenda later this morning to deal with a review of our, excuse me, I know it's not the right word, but variance is the thing that.
Conditional use permit.
The
Interim
permit
use
for our art gallery. And so it's a yearly review. Land Services has gotten our information from this year that we submitted, and I believe the Planning and Zoning Committee voted in favor of us continuing, and so I want to thank them for that, and just point out that we think we moved this summer to become more in compliance in terms of our signage was, we submitted an application and we had a formal approval. Mr. Ruth visited the site and assured us that a certain position of the sign was a legal position for the sign, and that they have our design for the sign, which we hand built and painted ourselves, and the other details like the sanitation was gone over, and so we've done our best to comply with all of the situation. One interesting detail is that we discovered when Mr. Ruth was visiting that we are at the end of County Road 44, and there's a turnaround for the grader that was created somewhere in the past, and it turns out that 2/3 of that space belongs to us, and so we have been admonished not to let people park on the county road, but that spot actually belongs to us, whereas typically people will park sometimes. I didn't see anybody park there this summer that were clients, but there was word of mouth floating about that somebody had, and it was distressing to somebody in the neighborhood. Anyway, that's, generally speaking, it seemed like I think we were in compliance, and we had by the time we got to the 10-day fall tour, we had a very nice turnout of people at the fall tour. It was a slow summer otherwise on the weekends. I don't know if there's any question. We have a conflicting event happening this morning, some freight coming into Bucks for us, and so I can't stay for the whole meeting. So I don't know. I won't be here to hear your response. So if you have a question of me?
We're just listening to your presentation, and we will be discussing it with Bill Lane when he comes in later. But thank you for clearing up a couple of those areas, too.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
So before we get into the real nitty-gritty of what we are looking at here, welcome. Unless we have another one? Okay. I'm just moving along too fast, Liz.
It's the new year.
I know it is.
Well, I want to start the year with blessings for each of you. And for you, Brady, may God bless you with the strength to counsel wisely on fiscal matters. County taxpayers have voiced their concerns of the rapid increases of taxes and their ability to pay. The increase may mean the individual's ability to pay for medications or healthy food. Another government program is not the answer for this, but giving the taxpayer the dignity to pay for the necessities themselves is. So God bless you. For the commissioners, may God bless you each with a hunger for making right decisions based on true needs of the county and affordability. The Bureau of Labor Statistics show that Cook County workers' average pay is $591 per week. This is the second lowest income in the state of Minnesota. We have a difference of $1 per week from being the lowest county average income in the state. May God bless you with the yearning to honor the dignity of workers in this community and county by frugal planning and spending. May God bless you with eyes to see and ears to hear the groanings of the people. For you, Jeff, may God bless you with courage to be transparent to the taxpayers of the county. There were multiple issues of confusion during this last year, and so I pray for that transparency and clarity. And for you, Molly, may God bless you with a desire to give counsel based on knowledge, compassion, and righteousness. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amen.
Anyone else like to come forward? Okay, we'll move on before we get to the busy part of all of our travel, of all of our committees and boards. I'd like to welcome Commissioner Mills.
Thank you.
To our board, and tell us a little bit about yourself, Dave.
I guess you'd say I'm from Grand Rapids originally. I've been here about 13 years. I was on the city council for 3 years and had to resign my seat when I moved into our current location out on County Road 44 into another district, and that enabled me to run for this seat.
Okay. And also, I'd like to welcome April Zimmer. She's joining us at our board meetings for a few meetings. She has taken the place of Judy Berglund, who retired back in December. So welcome to you, April.
Thank you.
Okay, so the first item on our agenda is to talk about travel and mileage reimbursements.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
If we could consider additions or adjustments to the agendas?
Okay, you want to do that first? Okay. All right, do you have something?
I do. I want to make a couple of comments about errors in the original agenda, and the first one is an apology to Commissioner DeShaw. As the agenda was published, I did not include his name on the first list. It's on the current list that's on the website now. Because he ran unopposed, it didn't filter into my mind that there was a choice made this past year, so I apologize for that. Under setting of travel and mileage reimbursements, the original materials came out and said to set the travel reimbursement at the IRS rate was intentional. The rate wasn't specified because I didn't have it. But I also referred to the daily meal allowance as being the meal allowance that was outlined in the 2011 policy. And so in the original materials, it showed that the daily meal allowance was $20, which was the reality back in 2011. But the materials that we'll be working off of today are the actual 2018 reimbursement rates, which were $37. So just a clarification on that. And then one new item to add, if you would be willing to add it to the agenda, and this came in rather late, and we were discussing it even last night at 10 o'clock, is the county owns and is responsible for the cardio equipment at the YMCA by agreement. And that equipment is in, a lot of it is in need of repair or replacement. And we did include money in the budget for it this year for capital replacement of that equipment and future capital considerations. So if you would allow me to add an item related to the YMCA cardio equipment, you all have a copy of that this morning.
Where would you like to add that?
we're still getting used to that. I would have Brian introduce this because this is his budget. But for the fact that he's not here, we could introduce it after Brady's items.
Okay.
Under the auditor, in between
Oh,
auditor.
Okay.
Item number 11 and a half.
Okay.
There's one other, and maybe it's just, maybe it's not important, but when we get to, I believe it's page 26, I'm under District 2 versus District 3. Myron is, it says District 3, Myron Bersheim versus District 2. That's on page 26, 27, or 25, 26.
Oh, yep. Those are just working documents, so, thank you.
Okay, anything else to add to the agenda? Nothing else? Motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Okay. Mayor, second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Travel and mileage reimbursements. We have this travel policy little packet here.
Based on everything we could identify, the travel policy has not necessarily been amended since 2011. You also have a copy of the 2018 reimbursement form. So the IRS reimbursement rate for 2019 is 58 cents per mile, and the current meal reimbursements are 10 for breakfast, 12 for lunch, and 15 for dinner. So we could entertain a motion to approve the IRS rate for mileage and the current breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or discussion or a motion to change the meal reimbursement rates.
Okay. So we will have a motion and then we'll have discussion.
So I'll make a motion to accept the IRS rates for both the mileage and the meal at $37 a day.
Okay, and discussion on this.
Madam Chair, we need a second.
Will I need a second? Yes.
Second.
Okay. Discussion.
I don't understand why the meal rate doesn't go off the IRS rate either, the GSA rate.
That's not been our policy. If we wanted to make a motion to amend the policy to follow the GSA rate, we could do that. We could do that, have that conversation now, we could have that conversation later, but the county's travel policy has not been amended since 2011, and it doesn't specify the GSA rate for meals.
Do you know the GS?
Pull it up on your phone real easy. It varies from
Varies.
city to city.
Right.
I don't think I've ever took the meal allowance anyway, but
I think it's kind of rare that we do reimburse ourselves for meals. Most of the
Yeah.
meetings we go to, the food is already provided.
Mhm.
And if we decide we want to do something on our own, then it's on our own. We don't submit
Yeah.
that. So you're looking something up there about the,
no, I'm not.
I am.
okay,
I'm curious.
okay.
Just a reminder that this policy covers all employees for the
Right.
county, not just commissioners, and,
Right.
you know, their meals aren't always provided
Yeah,
at their meetings.
Right. Okay, Commissioner.
Madam Chair, I think to follow up with that comment, thank you, I was going to say the same thing. I think when we do these things, we got to look at our employees
Right.
and asking them to do something based upon 2011 just seems to me, it's why we do cost of living raises.
Just
So I
a
think-
clarification, the rate in 2011 was $20 per day reimbursement. The
Oh,
current rate
excuse
is
me.
$37 per day.
When was it changed then?
I don't know when it was changed, but it was $37 per day in 2018. So that would be, we would be making a motion to adjust from 2018, not from 2011.
So did we change this policy in 2018?
No,
No.
it's been the same since I've been elected.
So it's,
The GSA rate for breakfast is 13, and we have it at 10. Lunch is 14, we have it at 12, and dinner is 23, we have it at 15. So if we were to change it to the GSA rate, it would increase on everyone.
To the 37.
It would
No,
be-
55, it would be.
55 total instead of 37.
Yeah.
That's the state average. It's not, it's higher for some cities, but that's the state standard rate by the GSA.
For Duluth, it's $76 a day instead of the 55, which is the standard.
Is that, were you recommending that?
Yeah, I would like, if this hasn't been updated since 2011, let's update it now, to the numbers that,
The average number?
the average numbers here, which comes out to, what was it?
55 a day.
55 a day broken up,
Has anyone been hearing feedback from staff traveling that the reimbursement is not adequate for meals?
I have. Not in a complaining sense, but it's just,
A jovial.
it's just one of those things where people are asked to do more.
Right.
And we're asking them to do, the same thing, but dip into their own pockets. So I think, at least where I've worked before, we try to look at, what is the going rate, and this is a good way to go. I mean, it reflects what is typical in the state, and it's just fair for everyone, and it's not that much money. It's just not.
Commissioner Dukert?
Just a reminder, and for you, Dave, if the meal is provided, you do not get reimbursement.
Yep.
And that includes, like for me, I'm allergic, so even though the meal's included, 90% of the time I can't eat it, I don't get reimbursed for it.
I think
I
there's
eat the donut or I don't.
I think there's a variance for allergies in the travel policy, just so you know,
I've
as an
taken
option.
it.
But I guess I'm really keen on Commissioner Deschamps' point with the GSA. I do have concerns, though. I mean, changing it to 37 a meal is a huge step away from 20.
It hasn't been 20 for a long time. It's been 37.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So
Oh, and
from
that's, okay.
It has been 37.
Okay,
So it'd be from 37 to 55.
okay.
Madam Chair, if I could suggest that the conversation is a good conversation, but the conversation should probably be held in the light of a review of the entire policy, and a change of this significance has not been accounted for in the 2019 budget, which has already been approved. That if there is of course you could, I don't know that it would be a significant amount of change, but $37 to $53 is potentially $16 a day, and I couldn't tell you what the potential impact on the budget would be. But it might be a better policy to review and bring forward for change mid-year or during the year after it's had an opportunity for some committee work.
Okay.
Excuse me, just one other question. Is it possible that this is a line item in the budget, that we could gather that cost?
Yes.
Yep, so I think
We
that
could
would be
get a-
worthwhile, and then multiply it by that percentage to see what the increase would be. And I would think it's going to be quite low compared to other items of the budget.
Okay, so we have two separate situations here. So what I'm hearing is that we will table and review the meal reimbursement.
No,
No,
we have
Ma-
a motion on the floor.
Okay,
We have to
Well-
vote on the motion.
okay. So the motion then is that.
It was 58 cents
50.
per
Yes, for the
mile,
mileage.
and
yes.
$37 per
And
day
37, okay.
on the meal reimbursements.
And then we had a second,
Yep.
and now we will vote. All in favor of this motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Same
Opposed.
sign.
I'm opposed.
Okay. Did Stacy get that? Yeah, one, okay. So we have to remember to speak into our microphone for the folks out there. Okay. So the travel policy and all that, we've looked through that and,
We'll send that back to
Just send it
policy and
back,
review
yeah.
that. Yep.
okay, on that. Moving on then to our appointment of the various boards and commissions. You all have had time to review all of that, I hope. And we also have the AMC policy, and we also have a request from the Transportation Partnership. So we have all these things to look at. We'll start with the boards and commissions of the page that we just received now from Jeff, which is a little different than the one we had before, but we will go through each of these one by one. And we've done a little bit of horse trading, because some things made more sense to have an inclusion of a couple committees. Some perhaps will be dropped, some will be on hold, because it's like it's out there, but we haven't done anything with it. So carefully, let's look at all this and see where we can come up with a good working board and commission for this coming year.
Madam Chair, if I could, this information has been summarized in a lot of different ways, but from what I can tell, the handout that I gave you is the one that the board has voted on and approved annually. So this is the one that we work off of and make amendments to. This not only includes commissioner assignments, but also includes citizen appointments that the board authorizes. So this is a summary of all of that, and it should include everything that we've been asked to provide additional detail for, and if it doesn't, then we will amend it as necessary. But if we would work off of this one, it will help. April is going to be taking notes, so she can update this information and make sure it gets transcribed onto the website so that people understand it, and that any communication to ARDC, et cetera, any follow-up and workflow is done appropriately. So if we could work off of this list, it would be helpful. I know that a lot of people have had conversations and made notes and submitted additional materials, but this is the one that we need to have updated and voted on by the time we're finished with this process this morning.
And so where it says Jan, we will fill in David. Okay. So do we want to start with the very first one?
I'll stay on active living.
I'll stay alternate.
Thank you, Dave.
Agriculture inspector, well, we usually have had the
agricultural inspector is actually assigned to the engineer. It's part of the contract that we have.
Airport Advisory Commission.
I'll stay as the primary.
Okay. Commissioner Bershheim, alternate?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
It hasn't been that often.
Okay, now the aquatic invasive species, I have been,
Primary.
yes, after Frank, yeah. So, would you be alternate?
Yep. Do you want me to take on aquatic? No.
Invasive
I'm thinking of something
species.
else. Yeah,
Hmm?
I was thinking of invasives, not aquatic, so
Oh,
yeah,
no.
you're right.
No. Okay, so I'm primary and you are alternate. Art Approval Committee as needed. So we could discuss that maybe in the future, and that was the artwork that was placed in the hallway and.
We do need to replace Jan on that,
Vacant
and we
now.
are still meeting, and I just had a discussion yesterday. It's Julie Kinney from upstairs that's helping us on this. She doesn't need to be appointed, but I do
Okay.
need, Dave, would you be willing to take Jan's spot on this?
Okay, yes.
Thank you.
And if I could ask and interrupt and clarify, Dave, when we write these things, would you prefer Dave or David? I'm going to put you on the spot so that April knows how to publish this.
I want to stay as familiar as possible, so I think Dave.
Thank you.
Dave, okay.
Thank you for clarifying.
When I'm in trouble, you can call me David.
That's a mom thing. Arrowhead Coalition for Multiple Use.
Do they still meet?
I've gone to a couple meetings. I know that, I know some of the people involved in that, and they still have a board that at least meets once a year. But they've been involved in this Tilbury Trail, and that's where I got involved.
That's That's when Frank had it added to our list, was the Tilbury Trail.
Yeah, I think, and so that's been going forward with the Forest Service. And I've been involved in some meetings trying to get some resolution to that. I would assume that as long as it's a functioning group within our county, that we should maybe continue, but I don't think they're as active as they were at one time.
And when it comes down to it, it's our decision whether or not we stay on these or not. But I think it's extremely important that before we drop one, that we talk to that group and just because we do want to be, conscious of taxpayer dollars and per diems, but we don't want to just let people go too. We want to stay
Right.
connected.
So we'll keep that, Commissioner Bershine?
Sure.
Okay.
Someone else want to take the alternate? Myron's never missed a meeting, just to let you know before you take that.
Yeah, I'd love to be the alternate.
Okay, Dave? I will call you Commissioner Mills, though. Okay, Arrowhead County Association, and I have been attending those because then I can also attend another meeting at the same time the next day, so that works out well. Commissioner Bershine will continue to be alternate?
Sure. Yep, I could do. Thank you, you don't miss.
No.
So, that helps.
Right. Arrowhead Economic Opportunity Agency?
And this one I was hoping to take over from Myron. I see that you are the alternate, so I don't know if you get a preference there or
Oh, no,
if that's okay with you.
Would you like to do that?
Yes, please.
Okay, yes.
Thank you.
So Dave on that. Arrowhead Health Alliance.
And,
Jan did go to that the second
yep.
Wednesday of every month, and Commissioner Dukirk, the alternate.
I never had to go. Jan made it to every meeting.
Okay.
So Commissioner Mills
No
is the
pressure.
primary.
Yeah.
No.
Would you be willing to take Jan's spot on that?
Yes, yeah, I'm willing to assume all of Jan's roles at this point, and any changes otherwise we'll note.
Okay.
Thank you for asking.
Arrowhead Library System, Audrey Stedelman.
Yep, we just have to
She-
approve her.
We just approve it, right. Okay. Arrowhead Regional Corrections Board,
I'm good.
good with both of you? Okay, thank you on that. ARDC, yes, I will continue with that, and we have a letter that will be sent back to the board.
Yep.
approving-
Work
yes.
Workflow's been given to
Yes,
April, and she'll
okay.
make sure they get a letter.
Thank you on that. ARDC Transportation Advisory Committee. Commissioner Deschamps?
Yeah, I didn't even know I was on there until I got this list. But
Okay.
I think I actually finally got an email the other day from
Those are
Russell.
the meetings that you've been attending down in Proctor?
No, that's
Oh,
Northeast
that-
Minnesota.
That's Northeast Minnesota, okay,
But I did get an email the other day from Russell on this, so
okay.
Okay.
good there.
So you got something from Russell. Okay, so this is the same thing, or this is the partnership, though? Okay, we'll do that later. Arrowhead Transit, so that would be then Commissioner Mills.
No,
As alternate.
Mm-hmm,
Yep.
yeah.
okay. And we haven't met for a while, but I guess if there's a need, I would continue, but I haven't. This is one where I've had conflicts too. But that's because they have conflicts. And they change things, but it's one of those things where it's maybe more aligned to AEOA.
Okay.
And if you would be willing, just a second thought, maybe that would be best, if they meet, that you could do that. It's held here at the senior center.
Yeah, let me,
So
one,
you're asking Dave to be primary and you alternate?
That would work, and here again, I know that it's been difficult to make those. Not just for my schedule, but they change their schedule, because people have to come from Evelyn, I believe, where the garage is, or
and sometimes they just don't.
That'll conflict with the Arrowhead Health Alliance.
Okay,
That
then
I'm
and
primary on.
I'll try to work it in.
But I'll be happy to be alternate and.
Okay,
Sorry, thank you.
not a problem.
Assessor Land Commissioner,
Nothing has changed there.
That's
Those were
changed.
mid-appointment for those.
yes.
Association of Minnesota
Minnesota
Counties, can we
Counties.
verify the policy committees that the commissioners are, Commissioner Dukirk is on the general committee and futures?
Yeah, future, I think, and we don't put futures on here because it's not,
Right.
but I am on general and I would like to say on general, since I'm the vice chair, it's kind of important.
Okay.
Kind of a big deal.
Kind of a big deal.
So
Kind of a big
Commissioner-
deal, first woman in 100 years, so
Oh,
kind of a big deal.
So Commissioner Mills, I've been trying to do health,
oh, okay.
so would you be willing to do public safety, to attend those meetings?
And Commissioner Mills, the reason for this is because we're voting members.
Right.
So Ginny's the voting member on public safety, so when she goes to Health and Human Services, she doesn't get to vote.
Right,
So if you'd take public safety, then she could be the voting member.
right. And then I could also be a voting member.
Yeah.
We could all be voting
We could
members
all
that
be.
way.
There you go.
Okay, yep, that
Thank
sounds
you.
fine.
Okay.
And then the final thing there is so we have Commissioner Dukirk as general, Commissioner Mills as public safety, Commissioner Bershheim environmental resources, Commissioner Storley on human services, Commissioner DeShaw on transportation, and then the three other that we have myself and Allison McIntyre, and Tim Nelson has normally been the 8th person on that list. So I would add him to that list as the voting members for the county at the AMC meetings.
So delegate appointments? Is that what that-
That's delegate appointment, so that's
Yeah.
filling out that form that was part of your packet.
And so then we'll pass this on to April to fill out?
She'll complete that and return it, yep.
Sorry. Never mind. AMC Indian Affairs Task Force, Commissioner Deschamps?
Yep.
Oh, we do have futures on here. Should futures be listed on here since it's not a reimbursable or appointed by this board? I'm elected by AMC to be on that board.
Then it doesn't belong on here. If reimbursement is from AMC for it,
Right.
then it doesn't belong on,
So it should be removed from this list.
is that, Brady? Does it hurt to have it here?
I don't think it hurts.
Okay.
The policy is, I don't know if it's in the travel policy, but the practice has been that you take your regular reimbursement, you turn it in unless it's the same.
I think it can stay, because
Yeah.
I think the policy says that you can only call for reimbursements if you're not already getting reimbursement from
Right.
another agency.
And then,
So I think it's okay.
and then it just matters whether it's more or less. I think it does
Right.
reference that.
So Commissioner Mills, the Association of Minnesota Counties has a couple of committees, and they often seek people out and ask them to participate, and then that committee nominates and votes on those people. So that's where my appointment to that committee came from. Sure.
And likewise, I'm on the Extension Committee from AMC, but we meet usually when we have our legislative session or our AMC, so it's not part of our board acknowledgement here.
How many of those committees through AMC are there?
So like
There's
four?
5.
Futures?
Well,
Extension.
there's 5 primary.
Yep.
And then there's the ancillary ones, and they usually work those in between regularly scheduled things during the meeting. So they don't conflict with your ability to serve on a general policy committee.
Do you know how many of those ancillary ones there are?
I don't, and it changes, because sometimes
Yeah.
they come up topic specific, and sometimes they're standing.
And they're going through restructuring right now.
Okay. Board of Adjustment,
Madam
It's
Chair,
in-
if we can leave this until a later
Yes.
agenda item where
Right.
we'll be selecting additional officers.
Board of Equalization.
Yes.
I think we were,
Yep.
yeah,
That one we have to do.
we have to be, Budget Committee.
I've been getting some feedback that maybe all commissioners should be on this. I don't know.
We've got 3 standing committees. One of them is the Personnel Committee, one is the Budget, and it probably should be identified as Budget and General Government, and the third is Public Safety and Transportation. I think I've heard some of the same conversation, and I would like for a lot more of the budget conversation to happen with full group of commissioners. This should probably be identified as the Budget and General Government. And
that's different than...
And that's different than specifically budget conversations. And
Okay.
it's also an opportunity for Brady and myself to work with a couple of members of commissioners if statute changes, if we have to react to policy, if we're considering something, and then we would bring it forward to a full group or to the full budget committee for conversation. But I do think it is, I appreciate the comment, and I've heard the same comment. And I think budget conversations can largely happen more so in the large group this next year. But as a standing committee, as an opportunity specifically for Brady and myself to have a couple of commissioners to work with as we react to changes coming from state and federal programs, that we would want to name 2 people to this committee.
Commissioner Bershheim?
Yeah, thank you. I know that this is something that we should take a look at, and I have an idea that I've shared a little bit, and maybe when we meet as a whole board, we could have these as a committee of the whole, where all the commissioners are there. And we already have that structure, and that way we could maybe have 3 of them during the year, a committee of the whole, and we just talking about budget. No decisions are made, nor are decisions made, in these meetings. I just throw that out as an idea or consideration, that maybe that's a way to do it within our current structure without just adding something. And I don't think that'll take board action. It would be just a matter of policy.
We'll be having a conversation about the general board schedule for the year after this as well, and I think that conversation will flow into that. But I do think that we do want to identify the 3 standing committees, and maybe this doesn't meet on a regular basis. Maybe this meets as needed if something comes up. But the Personnel Committee has a standing monthly meeting. Public Safety and Transportation has a standing monthly meeting. This one may not have a standing monthly meeting. It may meet as necessary as issues arise.
So Ginny and Myron, would you stay on the General Government Committee?
I would stay on the Budget Committee. Commissioner Bershheim, would you?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. So we'll leave it as it is.
Unless someone else wants to. I mean, I certainly would be willing to give it up.
The Budget Committee, we're talking about maybe perhaps having a preliminary meeting in March, and we don't really get serious until the summer, because then we wait for the department heads to get their budget together, and usually it's August before we really get serious about looking it all over. But the comments from the 5 folks who joined us last year on the budget indicated they would like to meet earlier, and we agreed that we would do that, so.
And so that's where I guess my question was, is that the 5 members of the public, that's different than this budget committee?
Correct.
Yes.
These will be 2 different things.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
This is a policy group.
Policy group.
Okay.
Yeah.
Largely, what we need as administration is we need commissioner involvement in the consideration and development and reaction to policies that are coming at us, so that we can format, do our research and format options and bring those to a larger group for consideration.
Okay.
Okay.
So that stays the same.
Stays the same.
So,
Yes.
Excuse me, so a point of clarification is, should we consider having a budget advisory committee as something's...
That's separate. Yep,
That's
that's the other item.
So then where would that be on here?
That's later.
Where is it on here?
We should add that, thanks you. That's an oversight.
Yeah. Thank you.
So Budget Advisory under Budget Committee?
Yep.
Keeping it alphabetical?
than we put it before, but
Yeah.
we would add that.
And that would be all of us.
And the public members.
Yes.
Point of clarification again, excuse me. So in the past, we've had 2 commissioners on the Budget Advisory Committee, so in following up with Commissioner Dukirk's comment, you're recommending that all of us serve on the Budget Advisory Committee?
Yes.
So that would be something we'd have to, I think, vote on.
We vote on this as a whole.
We do vote on this whole packet as a whole, so that this is the opportunity to discuss that.
I think we should discuss it, because if we get to the end and we have one disagreement, I would suggest we take this item by item. In other words, you know, if we're going to change something on here significantly, and I'm not speaking against that, I'm only speaking policy, then I think we need to discuss that and take board action on that, rather than just throw it in at the end, and then it could be just the only thing that's someone disagrees with, and then we have to go back, and we're going to be here for a long time.
So pull this one out.
Well, that's up to the chair, but
You bring up a good point.
Well, truthfully, when I look through here, we don't have the Highway Advisory Committee on this group. We do not have the Sheriff's Advisory on this group. So we could consider not having the Budget Advisory on this group and talk about the advisory committees at a subsequent meeting. But that makes more sense.
I'm comfortable with that.
Okay.
when we still have, okay, so we're making distinctions on what is on this list. And then, so I understand this going forward, if we adopt that and saying all commissioners will be on it, then that would be part of our committee assignments? Or would it be just a responsibility of the?
It partially depends on how you organize. Do you want the budget meetings to be part of the regular board meetings, or do you want them to be a separate process? And that's another conversation that we have not had. And those are comments that I've heard from commissioners as well related to this year's issue. So I think it's appropriate to leave it for now and come back to it.
At a later date, not today.
Not today.
Yeah. Okay, everybody good with that?
Sure.
Okay. Cemetery Association. Commissioner Deschamps.
I'm good. One of these years we may meet.
Okay. Children's Justice Initiative, State Supreme Court. Jan did that, I don't know.
Yep,
you know,
I tried to
just-
find
yeah.
information out about it online, and
Yeah.
I can provide information if you'd like.
thank you. Yeah, but it doesn't sound like it's a regular.
It's chaired by the district court judge, so Judge Michael Kuzo would be the one to call meetings. I think they might have them twice a year at this point, so if we make sure that they have the updated commissioner information, then you should be invited.
Okay. Nope, I'll be happy to.
Okay. County Highway Advisory Committee?
And then just after I looked for the Highway Advisory Committee,
Here we are.
under the H's, here it is. So I would ask for, I don't see the Sheriff's Advisory Group on here. Potentially, we pull this from the list and we consider the advisory groups together as a distinct policy. It could, or it may or may not be appropriate to list them on this form.
So you want to pull this one off this form?
I would pull this one off the form and
Okay.
combine the advisory committees and consider them together. One of the uses for this list is that Brady's office has it as documentation of the meetings that the commissioners are assigned to, and therefore have the opportunity to submit reimbursements for. The other ways that the policy allows us to do that for commissioners is by motion, if the assignment is made temporarily or otherwise to something not on this list, or at some point other than this meeting, they still have the authorization to reimburse for this. So we will, these groups have been reimbursable lists for commissioners, so we have to make a determination quickly. But I don't think we would stop that, because by motion, previous motion, we set the membership of this committee. So even if it's not on this list, I think it still stands.
Okay.
Well, I would be most comfortable with getting all of the advisory committees on this list, because I think for transparency's purpose, if the public asks for the list of the commissioners, this is what's handed out, and so it'd be good to have everything on there, but.
And Dave, we have added things mid-year that have been added.
Okay.
We added a committee last year.
Okay.
I think that would be the goal, but I think that Commissioner Bershheim brought up good questions about structure going forward into this year, and we should answer those before we make that change.
One more comment.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think maybe at some point in time, we should just review this process, because we have board action, and then they don't get on this list, and it doesn't get updated on the county website. And so I think somehow or the other, we need to set a process of when we take board actions. As an example, I have a couple of assignments by board action, and they're not on here, but I think we need to get some kind of system so that we have something that's fluid and transparent. So whenever board action has made some changes or actions on these things, then we have a process for updating that information. And I would assume it could be based upon the minutes, and that would activate something. And then hopefully we can get this thing to be more of a working document rather than trying to, and I think it's worthwhile what we're doing. And I know that that's just something that maybe, we're learning that we could use.
Okay, nothing's cast in stone. We're always revising and advising. So we'll move on to Cook County Wetlands Management Committee.
I'll stay.
Okay. Commissioner Bershheim, alternate?
Yeah, have we met?
Nope. It's as needed.
As needed.
As
okay.
needed. And then we have the Communication Armor Towers 911 Committee. Let's see. So Commissioner Deschamps?
Yep.
And I'll continue to be alternate on that. Community Center Board of Trustees.
We'll be getting an update from Diane and probably taking action on that. I know that she's got some new candidates, so we'll be taking separate action on that list.
Okay.
But if you want to identify, confirm the commissioners assigned to that.
So.
Excuse me, Jeff, I'm sorry. I'm not able to hear you clearly. It is so appreciated when you speak into those mics.
Thank you.
They're individually controlled and some are turned up and down. But
Okay,
thanks.
thank you. Let's see. Community Board of Trustee. Okay, so right now, Jan has been on the board. Is this the same as Extension?
Nope,
No, that's
she has
different.
two separate boards.
Okay.
2 titles, 2 boards.
2 titles, 2 boards. Okay, Commissioner Mills.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You will continue to be there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Community Health Board?
Would anyone be willing to take this on, or Ginny move into the primary? It meets upstairs in public health.
Yes, I'm willing to take that on.
Thank you.
And then I will be alternate. Okay, Community Wildfire Protection Plan Implementation Committee.
That's chair and vice chair.
There we are.
And that's still active?
I have not attended anything or have
Neither.
had.
We believe that's as needed.
As needed, yes.
Several of these emergency response
Yeah.
committees are outlined in our emergency response plan, and they're called out in there.
Yeah. Cook County Health Care Planning Committee. And I have attended all those meetings, so I will need an alternate.
I can be the alternate.
Thank you. Cook County Historical Society.
I'll continue.
I can be the alternate.
Thank you. Cook County Local Energy Project.
Yep.
Okay,
I can be the alternate.
alternate there. Cook County Invasive Team.
Jenny, I would like to take the primary on that. The Scenic Byway Committee asked me if I could do that, just because I know that there's invasives in your district, but that's something that we work a lot with on Scenic Byway and also soil and water. If you wouldn't mind, I'd like to be the primary.
That'd be fine.
Okay.
And
Would
then
you
I'll
be
be
my
the
alternate?
alternate?
Thank you.
Mhm. Okay, Cook County Soil and Water Conservation District.
I know, Dave, you've been willing to take on Jan's, but I would ask Myron if you would be willing to be the alternate, because you do a lot of environmental committees.
So you're asking me to be alternate or not primary? Oh,
Alternate.
gladly.
'Kay.
Not primary.
I didn't expect you to be that excited about it, but okay.
Well, I thought we were talking about taking on the primary. And
Well, I'm just going to give you a heads up, you'll need to be there in February. But
When
that's
is it?
probably
First
it.
Thursday of the month.
First Thursday at 1 here in this room.
I don't know if I'm available.
Does it conflict with another meeting?
Uh,
It conflicts with a lot of people with other meetings, because Jan also sometimes had a conflict.
That's N County's land use is on the first Thursday at 10 a.m. in February.
That's, and you're on that one. I think, the N Club? And that's not locally, right?
No, that's
North End.
usually in North Home or in Grand Rapids.
So that's why you can't take it, so it goes back to you. Sorry to be confusing. So that goes back to Dave.
Okay.
That's why we do it that way.
So you're alternate and not ex officio.
I'm primary and Dave is alternate.
Okay.
Well, drats.
And the coroner situation we've already handled previously.
Chair- Madam Chair, I would suggest that you still appoint the coroner again to initialize that four-year term or whatever year term that you, so that they run consecutive to all of the other nominations.
So
Not
who do we-
consecutive, concurrent.
Who do we put in
Our
here?
coroner services agreement is with Midwest Medical Examiners,
Okay.
so we would name that organization.
Yeah.
If I may, I would further suggest that there be a notation here of the length of the term. I think that a four-year appointment is the max under the statute, so.
I think our contract with them is for 2019 and 20, so we'll have to put in the actual date of that so that we
2
know when
years.
it's up for renewal.
So for 2 years contract.
Can you hear me?
Still got a microphone.
Yep. Yep.
Council on Aging. Commissioner Bershine?
I'll continue on that. We're in the process, I think, of really looking at that. I'd gladly give it up, but I think it would be good to have continuity right now.
I'll continue then to be the alternate. County DNR Forest Service Quarterly Coordination. So Commissioner Bershine?
I've been going to those, and then I know that Commissioner DeShaw, haven't you been going to a couple of them too, or you went to one? Representing, okay, that was someone else. Okay. Yeah, I could continue with that. It works in my schedule.
Okay. And Commissioner Dukirk for alternate?
Yep.
Deferred Compensation Plan Committee. So Commissioner Bershine, you are listed here as commissioner on that?
We haven't met, but that's okay.
Okay. So we have the EDA Resource Development Council, EDA and RDC. So we have Commissioner Dukirk.
I don't know why it says RDC after EDA. It is
Regional
the-
Development Commission?
It is the Grand Marais Cook County Economic Development Authority. It's not RDC.
Okay, so you want to say Cook County?
No, I want to say Grand Marais Cook County I get corrected when I call it Cook County. It's Grand Marais Cook County Economic Development Authority.
Both.
Grand Marais appoints people just like we do.
Yeah.
On that one, for us, Carol Mork's term was up in December, and she was the only applicant. We do need to approve her if the board chooses, and I will stay on.
Okay.
Carol and Bev's terms were up in December, so the city will vote based on their applicants, but the only applicant we received was Carol. So I don't know if we want to do that separate from this.
Can you clarify how accurate this list is then?
It is incredibly accurate.
It is?
Yes.
It's correct?
And Myron has attended meetings as the alternate,
Okay,
so.
so if we understand that we're assigning Commissioner Dukirk as primary and Commissioner Bersheim as alternate and Carol Mork as the county designee for another 3-year term, is it a 3-year? I believe it's a 3-year.
6.
It's a 6-year term? As the only applicant that we had for that.
Is this 4-year term?
Yeah, apparently there's
Okay.
lots of stuff.
Okay. I'm just pointing stuff out. Sorry.
To Commissioner Bersheim's question about this document being much more accurate, as a part of the agenda management system, we purchased a corollary on boards and commissions, and we'll be working with April to get that data in there, and that will have terms, and that will have deadlines, it will have meeting dates. We'll have a lot better access to information, because all of these are managed by different authorities, and we usually get napkin notes. If I showed you the folder which we were working out of, I'm surprised we've got it this close.
If I could just comment, I didn't mean, I hope it didn't sound critical. I think that, I know that this is in the process and really appreciate, the efforts that we're doing.
No, I just wanted to reiterate that we have a new tool going forward, and we have April, who's here taking notes on this so that we can follow up and make sure that it's accurate.
Thank you.
You're much nicer than I am, Myron. I've been frustrated with this for 6 years.
Okay, we're going to do it this year, make changes.
I've heard that.
Okay.
6 times.
Okay, so with this in mind of the ADA, are we approving what's already on here? Is that what you're asking, Commissioner Dukirk?
Yes.
With the exception of Bev Green.
Yep, Bev Green is not our decision, but as far as we know, she is the appointed member. I know she's applied, but we can approve Myron, Heidi, and Carol.
Okay. And you want to make that a motion then?
It'll just be part of this
part of it?
document.
Okay.
Yep.
Then we approve this. Carol, you're back on. Emergency Information Team. Well, I guess we're on that, but I have not had any meetings. We'll just keep it the way it
I assume
is.
it's in case of an emergency.
Yeah, Emergency Preparedness Committee. That's,
I'll remain alternate.
okay. Emergency Operation Command, that's all the commissioners?
Yep. Hope to God we never have to meet that one.
Right. The Extension Committee. So this is where I would probably fill in instead of you, David?
Okay.
The extension?
Yep.
That'd be great.
Thank you.
Then I can make some coordination between this and AMC.
Okay.
And she will be updating that. Commissioner Bersheim?
Yeah, I've had some conflicts with that, but I know that I inquired about whether we do need to have 2 people on it. That was a previous discussion. at a
2
board
voting
meeting this
members?
year. Well, it's by statute that Mr. Powers had indicated that we have to have 2 county
That's
commissioners on
It's
this.
still a statute, yeah.
And I've been trying to make them, but it's been difficult. So if someone else is free, for example, on the 3rd Tuesday, that'd be helpful, but, we've
Brady,
been
are
getting
we,
by.
are we allowed to have 2 appointed and an alternate? So that if Myron can't make it, the alternate can step in, or if Ginny can't make it, the alternate could step in?
I can't imagine that that's a problem to have an alternate. It's just there's...
That'd be helpful.
Well, and the 3rd Tuesday is the committee of a whole, but that's in the evening. What time is?
Late afternoon.
I mean, what time is the extension committee?
2.
Oh, okay.
Mid-afternoon.
Yeah, I can be.
You take Myron's spot or the alternate?
Yeah, I could take your spot, Myron, if that's okay.
Myron?
Actually, I'm on Jan's spot, and Ginny can take Myron's spot.
No.
Myron,
If we have an alternate, that'll help.
Well,
Will you
But-
be willing to be the alternate?
I mean, either way, whatever you prefer, Myron, is fine with me.
So it'd be Ginny, Myron, and Dave. You just need to draw a straw for who's the alternate.
Do you have a preference?
Well, I guess this brings up another issue that we should try to maybe adhere to, that I have a lot of my committee assignments are related to environmental issues and resources, and this one is highly tied to that. And so, I'd like to get it up, but then again, I guess.
I'll be alternate if.
Yeah, that would help.
I'm very helpful.
That would be very helpful.
Yeah, I'm very
That's
happy
maybe
to.
the best way to go.
Okay.
I just think that it's good to have all these things together, because
Right.
when you go down to the state, you're involved in a lot of local issues and
Yes.
Yes.
can bring things forward.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Firewise Community Committee?
I'll stay.
Then I can be alternate.
Don Kufal is not the Gunflint representative. That would be John Botker. And Jim and Cheryl Morrison, that is not. He would be the Gunflint representative, which has been replaced. And otherwise, and Paul Nelson. I'll leave that one for now. He just hasn't been able to attend in a while. But otherwise, it looks like we have the right people on there.
Okay. Then we'll get another updating if there's been changes too. So Fire Department relief funds.
I did receive an email from the president of the Gunflint Trail Fire Relief, and they did ask for John Bodker and Fred Smith to be reappointed.
Okay.
And Maple Hill is in my district, but they did not contact me. I'm assuming they contact Jeff.
Okay.
We'll have to contact the other associations and bring that back.
Bring that back, okay.
Can we just approve it as part of this, and then if there's changes, change it?
Okay, so we'll approve that. John Botker and Fred Smith. Forest Service County Liaison Meetings. Emergencies only, so I guess we're good there. Getchigami Trail Association, I've been attending those, and there's one this week. Commissioner Dukirk is alternate. Grand Marais Library Board. Looks like Dave.
Yes.
Okay. Grand Portage Community Task Force. Myron and Commissioner Deschamps and Commissioner Bershheim, are you just both attending?
Well,
Do we have a primary?
Maybe we
role
should,
in it?
I've gone to some functions where there have been some topics in the community and would like to continue, but I don't know, are they going to continue with them? I haven't had any for the
I think
last.
they come up every now and then, so.
So if that's all right, I would like to, I think it'd be good to have two of us there. One from.
Okay, so both of you will do that?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Grand Portage Undoing Racism Initiative. All commissioners are invited when that meets.
Yeah, we haven't met for 2 years, and John Moore, and I was on this committee, I actually was on the board many years ago. And this was an initiative that went on for a long time and was active, and then it just sort of, it was sort of tied to a funding stream, and public funding and as a nonprofit, so I don't know if it's going to come up again.
I don't think it's around anywhere.
No. So let's drop that one.
Gunflint Trail Scenic Byway Committee.
Yes.
Commissioner Dukirk.
And we can remove meets second Wednesday. because we meet when we can.
Okay, as needed.
No, we meet bi-monthly, but it depends on all of our schedules, and we pick a date at the previous meeting.
Okay. All right. Heart of the Continent Partnership.
I went to the last one because no one else could go, and I guess Commissioner Dukirk, do you want to continue with that, or?
Yeah, the last one I thought was during AMC. They scheduled one last year during AMC, and that's why St. Louis County Commissioner missed AMC. He went to Heart of Continent instead, which they don't usually do that, but they meet 3 times a year.
Okay.
But if you want to take it on, I didn't make it to any last year. But they are traveling. They don't meet
They're planning a
locally.
bike trip up here this summer.
Yeah,
So,
Well, I think we should have someone there, but,
absolutely.
and you're saying.
I'll stay on it unless you want to take it. Or
Well,
do you
why
want to
don't-
be?
If I'm the alternate, then.
Okay, are you
if
okay
that's
with
all
that,
right
Dave?
you, Commissioner Mills? Would you want to?
It's quite all right with me, yes.
Okay,
Maybe that's a good way to deal with it, because
thank you.
I have gone, and
you'll be the alternate. Okay, good, thanks. And let's see, we have a highway engineer, so we don't need to deal with that. Hospital district,
And I was hoping to take that one on.
And that would be fine. It was Jim Johnson's originally, and I don't know why, because it's not my district, but it is your district, so. And Myron, would you still be the alternate?
sure, I
Okay.
have no problem with that. So it's Dave?
Yep. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
so the Human Services Board, let's see. Well, now that Commissioner Mills is here, it's a meeting that we all attend and have here once a month.
Okay.
Commissioner Deschamps' name is not on here.
It'll be updated.
Yeah, you're the vacant, Dave? Okay, we'll fill you in. All right, labor negotiations. Well, when they arrive, I guess they'll be part of that. But it won't.
It's chair and vice chair. I'd be
Yeah.
willing to be the alternate.
Okay. Lake Superior Popular Watershed, District Board of Directors.
We'll update that.
That needs to be updated quite a bit, and I will continue on that since that's in the West End, or wherever it needs to be, but so far it's been the West End. Land Policy Advisory Group,
We had one workshop that I attended 2 years ago. I would assume this is one of those standing committees, as needed?
This would be an as-needed meeting, yep.
Okay, so that's fine. It was a good workshop.
Do we need a second commissioner on that? Is that
Or was
Well,
that
that's a good-
Kristen?
The land policy.
policy advisory group?
Is that vacant spot because we didn't have a highway engineer?
That could be.
We don't need a second, I mean, not by statute or anything.
Okay, all right. So we'll just eliminate vacant and go with the group that's listed.
Land Records Committee.
You didn't hear me. Did you hear me?
No.
I said we don't need a second commissioner by statute.
For the Land
There's
Policy
no
Advisory
statute.
Group.
Yeah.
Do not need. Okay. Land Records Committee, well, as needed there. Laurentian Resource Conservation Development Commission.
Yeah, now, you know, this is now the first Thursday of the month, which sometimes is subject to change, but I should continue with that one. Just to explain, this is a commissioner from all the districts from the northern counties, and we deal with a lot of environmental issues, and a lot of those issues do end up at the state. So it would seem like, because I'm on natural resources with the AMC, that we should continue with that.
Okay. And I will be your alternate then.
That's fine.
this is highlighted, will get me. So we need a local water management plan advisory committee, so we need an update on that, it looks like.
Well, yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
I've been chair of that.
Okay.
Um,
So
and I
what
know
am
that-
I?
Myron, you're listed as the alternate on that.
I know.
So you've been going?
Yes, and I
Okay, well,
actually
you-
chair it by, I think that was when I became a commissioner, it was a change, and I was assigned this, but it never got
Okay.
updated here.
So then you should be the primary, and I would be your
And
alternate.
that's really tied to one watershed plan,
Yes.
which I got appointed to, too. and-
Right, yeah.
And so,
And this is separate from one watershed.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
So who replaced Don Lease on here?
This needs to be updated.
This needs to be
Yeah.
updated.
Richard Betts, I believe, is going to continue. Biz Clark, no longer. Neil Hampson, I think his term is done. Elena's, Gary is continuing. I've been chairing it, and then I just assumed that you were alternate. But this list is,
Right,
we-
okay.
well, we've just discussed it.
It'll be-
We'll work these things out. But if someone, I think here again, it's aligned to natural resources in one watershed. And
Mhm.
it seems to me that we should try to align our local assignments, and environment and natural resources is a big one. And so
Yes.
that's why I got a lot of committees, but that's the way it should
Right.
be. And-
Right.
And,
So you want to stay on that?
well, I think it should. It really relates to, the local water issues that we deal with, and that is directly related to all the other, environmental type committees, but it's really aligned to one watershed, one plan.
And
which is
Soil
the
and
state.
Water has asked me to be on one watershed because it aligns with Soil and Water.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of wondering if I should be on
Well,
this one.
And if you,
And then you would be the alternate, if you're okay with that?
Well, he's the chair.
yeah, well, I think,
Or you're the, yeah, I
that's
don't
something
know.
here, again, should we be talking to the people involved? And I'm open to that. But then you should really take one watershed, one plan, which I've been appointed to. Then you should.
I'd be
do
willing to
natural
take that.
resources, for AMC,
But that can,
and so that's where, it's,
well, general covers natural resources. If you would be the alternate and we went together and got their feeling to the local the next meeting, third Monday.
I think we could do that, sure. Yeah. But we should set it up with Elena, if you want to talk to her, but.
Absolutely.
I think it just creates problems. In second thought, it might be better for me to continue, but, how far
And I'm
should
fine with
we
that.
wanna be?
I'm fine with you continuing, and as the alternate, I can attend, so I'm up to date.
Okay, let's do that.
So Myron is the
Because I know that there
primary.
was some action taken in appointing me, and.
So-
Right, so
I
I'll be
don't
the
wanna-
alternate.
That
Okay.
would work. Good solution.
Okay, thank you on that. Minnesota Counties Environmental Trust, Intergovernmental Trust, I should say.
Well, I know that you went to the last one.
did.
This was a confusion, and I knew that I was on it, but I never received any notices from the organization itself.
And that will
So-
change this year, I'm hoping, with this
Yeah.
list.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that, I think you went to the last one.
I did in December,
Because
yes.
I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
with my schedule, but here again, it was someone I don't think notified the state organization.
It's something that we
MIT.
attend during AMC.
Yeah, but I just
Right.
never got the notices, so
Okay.
I never
Okay.
went for
All
2
right.
years or the first year.
I think they only do annually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's annual.
it's the.
It's annual.
Yeah.
So are you saying you want to be the primary?
I would rather not, because it meets whenever we have our AMC meetings, N Club, Northern Counties Land Use
Oh.
Conservation Board meets,
Okay,
and it gets to be difficult.
okay. So
And
I can be
they've
the
been-
primary,
Yeah,
and
and I
then
could do the alternate if
be
that's,
alternate, okay.
Thank you.
All right. Minnesota Power Advisory Committee, and I will continue with that as long as we hear from them eventually, which hopefully will be this year. Minnesota Transportation Alliance, Commissioner Deschamps.
Yep.
Multi-agency coordination, this is a regional, okay, during emergencies, okay? So all will be taken care of if we have a emergency. North Shore Collaborative.
Yes.
So Dave would do that, and Commissioner Dukirk for alternate?
Yep, and change Joni to Grace.
Right. Okay, North Shore Management Board? Commissioner Deschamps, have you been primary?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Bershheim, alternate?
And how often does that meet?
It's like every other month or every.
Okay.
Northeast Minnesota Home Consortium Advisory Committee, so that's the one that, Dave, I said I would do that.
Okay.
And because they're getting down to maybe twice a year, maybe even once a year now. That's over in Virginia, so it's like a day.
Should I be the alternate?
You could be the alternate,
Okay.
that'd be great. Northeast Minnesota Office of Job Training Program.
And I was hoping to take that one on as
No, I'll
primary.
take, alternate. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Northeast Minnesota Transportation Partnership.
Yep.
Okay. Does that tie in with Russell, what Russell asked here?
Yes.
Northeast Minnesota Area Transportation?
Yes. it does.
Okay, all right, very good. So we will let Russell know that you will continue with that. Northeast Minnesota Emergency Communication Board, that's the radio communication.
Yep, that works.
Okay. Northeast Waste Advisory Council meets quarterly.
I would be willing to take that on as a primary, considering that I am on planning and zoning and like every single thing that has to do with poop and waste.
Okay.
Okay, that's in your category then.
Yes.
Northern Counties Land Use Coordination Board. Have you been meeting?
Yeah, that's in club, yeah.
Okay. All right, so you will be primary, Dave will be alternate?
Okay.
Yeah, and it's at 9 o'clock, but
Okay.
Change that to 9.
North Shore Scenic Council Drive, I have been going to that, if Commissioner Deschamps will continue alternate. Thank you. Who? The Food Bank Project?
The Northeast Food Project was Frank Moe asked for this to be added to our list of committees, and they have never contacted me to attend a meeting.
I don't know either.
I was on that when I was in city council, and they were hurt when a commissioner was no longer attending.
They'd have to actually send us the meeting notice to get us to attend.
Well, and so they've contacted me, asking me to be the county representation there.
I'm okay with that.
And I said I was okay with that, but I would talk with the board and.
And you just did.
And it's called the Northwoods Food Project. It's not Northeast.
Northwoods, there we are, where we live.
And the point of this board is to try to focus on more sustainable ways to provide food in our county and to support local farmers. Try to get, and that's, sometimes I wonder if this is something that would fit well under the EDA, but we won't go down that road right now, I guess, huh?
So Commissioner Dukirk, are you interested in being alternate, or would you rather not?
Yeah, with the level of commitment.
Okay. We will put you there then, so far.
Dave, when do they meet?
Good question. I think that's the first Thursday. And it's at, I believe it's at 5.
Okay. That's fine. We're done with soil and water by then.
One watershed, one plan committees.
Yep, I think we should continue with that, and it's sort of tied into a previous discussion. And I know that this was set up by deed with the state, and so I know that they formed this, and so I was part of that original action by deed to be the, so I think
It was
it's-
Gary that was on it originally when we
Yes.
formed it and wrote the document.
Yep.
And then Soil and Water had asked, because we have grants coming up this year, if I would be on it, so there's no alternate for this one. And weren't you the chair?
That's the local water management advisory.
Right,
Chair
but
of that. And then Commissioner Say and I are on the policy committee.
Yep.
And I'm really not an alternate there. I'm actually vice chair.
That's, okay, so you're vice chair.
And of that committee, and then it has two soil and water people represented. And we actually approved the budget. So the
Yep.
$370,000 that came here was from that group. And so I don't think we should change that, just because it's involves the state as well.
And so do we need an alternate then? You think, you feel?
Does Lake County have an alternate?
Not on the policy committee itself.
Okay.
But the advisory committee, certainly, you know, but we haven't met yet. We've just sort of met as a policy committee.
Okay. So that'll be coming to us later.
Well, I think if someone would want to serve on the advisory committee as an alternate, that's fine, but
Okay.
we haven't met yet. It's been basically the policy committee.
The advisory committee meets separate?
Yeah, and then I think advisory committee is actually the Cook County, you know, it's got the, it's more like the water management advisory committee would be most closely aligned to that.
There's a lot of people on the advisory committee.
Well, and they represent different groups, and I think some of them are local as well.
Yeah.
So you have a Lake County one, and we have a Cook County one, and so, but I haven't attended any of those. They haven't had any.
Okay.
I think that might have been in regards to its development, you know, and it is a state functioning group.
Okay. So leave it as it is.
So just leave it for now. Parks and Trails Commission?
I was hoping to take over, I believe, let's see, Jenny, you were the.
That was the ex officio,
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, and,
And then you could be that, and then someone else could be appointed for your District 3?
yeah, I believe Mickey Brazil was, we were hoping to get him as the District 3, and then,
Okay.
you know, there's openings both in District 2 and District 4. And if Mickey took the District 3, then he would leave open the at-large, and that might be easier to fill than a particular district, so.
Okay. Great. And then alternate has been Heidi?
Yep. I'm fine with that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jenny.
Personnel Committee?
Okay.
Was
Jan and Heidi.
Jan
That's a
and
monthly.
Heidi, or Dave?
Yep.
Are you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay.
And
Commissioner
when is
Duker.
that? Tell me later.
Planning Commission, well, that's going to change, so we'll discuss that later. Popular River Watershed Management, I have been going to that in the West End. We'll continue, if Heidi will continue with alternate.
Yep.
We're getting down to the point now where we're almost ready to meet about once a year, but we are very happy with the move that's been made with the ski hill and all the things that are going to make the Poplar River even better. Public Health and Human Services Advisory Committee. Jan was the ex officio on that.
Okay.
Group meets today at 1.
This one here? The personnel?
The
Personnel normally does, but we're not meeting
Public
today.
Health and Human Service Advisory.
Oh, okay.
So you would be welcome.
We'll have
if you
some
wanted to
changes
attend, if you
here,
had the opportunity.
too.
Absolutely.
Second Tuesday, 1 o'clock.
Okay, Public Safety Transportation Committee, have that been both Commissioner Deschamps and, okay, is that, you're all right with that?
Sure, and just a point of clarification, we also have another committee that's the Lake and Cook County Shared Engineer, and I think that this brings up maybe the appropriate time to deal with it. Sometimes these, like this advisory committee, really, I assume Commissioner Deschamps and I serve on it because we're on the public's, on this committee. Do we need to add the shared highway thing as a committee assignment? I'm just throwing that out as a question, or do we just go under those assumptions that it's a sort of a, a subset or arm of the...
Well, truthfully,
Do you
the
want-
Shared Highway Engineer Services group was appointed by motion by the board and appointed the two of you to attend that one, so we could add it to this list.
Okay.
It should be added.
Okay. Because that has impact on two other issues, that have come by board action, and so I'll just address that at the end. Thank you.
Region 3 Social Services redesign, and that's all commissioners when needed. Revolving Loan Fund Committee. We
Sure, I'll
had-
continue with that. I'll continue with that.
We have probably some changes on that, too, do we,
Um,
Brady? Is that all
I
the
don't
same?
think there's any
No.
changes to the
Okay.
members, but I'd like to ask to add a member. We're short one since one of the members died a couple of years ago, and we've never replaced them, and sometimes we struggle to get a quorum, so I'd like to put out the notice and try and get another voting member.
We can advertise the vacancy.
Okay.
Okay. Safety Wellness Workplace Committee, Commissioner Dukirk?
Can we get an alternate on that? I have had a couple situations where another meeting changed and I couldn't be at both.
When do they meet?
They meet the second Thursday at
Second Thursday?
8:30 a.m.
And they meet where?
here in this room. It's like once every 2 years. It's not a huge commitment.
No.
Yes, I can be alternate.
Thank you, Dave.
Security Committee?
I'm Myron's alternate on that. I have been. It's
Who's-
not often you miss that.
Who's primary?
I've been
Myron,
going to them, and
Yeah.
sometimes it
it conflicts with,
meets at 8:30, 8:15. Usually, I think it's the second, but sometimes it changes, but it doesn't meet that frequently, I don't know. But sometimes I have a conflict, but I just sort of go and then go to another one.
I'd be
And,
willing to be the alternate.
Okay.
I think you went to one for me, thank you.
Septic Advisory Committee.
Here comes all the septic meetings. I'll stay as primary.
And Commissioner Deschamps, have you been going?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I will be the alternate then. The Septic Ordinance Committee is
I'll stay
Commissioner
primary.
Primary.
And we do not have an alternate listed. It says vacant.
Yeah.
Would someone else like to? And that's as needed when we have to update our ordinance.
Yes, I would like that.
Okay, thanks, Dave.
And just a heads up, after we have the consent agenda, I'm going to take a break before we go on with other, so you can inform, or if they're watching, we're going to have a break before we get to part of the other agenda. / Disposal Committee.
That's after Firewise. I'm on that. So we
Yeah.
could put the alternate as the same alternate as Firewise. which I believe is Dave.
Okay.
Solid Waste Committee meets as needed.
Yep.
Okay.
And do we have two commissioners, or are you the alternate, Commissioner Dukirk?
I believe we have 2 commissioners on that. We haven't met in a while.
Okay. Okay. Veteran Service Office, we still have Pat Strand. YMCA Cook County Community Local Branch Board of Directors. So Commissioner Bershheim, you're on here under 2 boards then, I take it?
Well, there's actually 3 boards that I've been functioning with. And
Okay.
we haven't met as under the title of Cook County Community Local Branch Board of Directors, but I would assume maybe that's something that is in some kind of an agreement. I serve on the Cook County Community YMCA Advisory Committee, as well as the Duluth Association Board and the Facilities Committee. And those meet monthly.
And are you compensated as a commissioner in all 3?
Yes.
Okay.
Because they involve travel.
Okay, so
Involvement
then
on
if you're compensated, it should be on the list.
Yeah. So I guess the question is, should it be
A separate.
Cook County Community Local Branch Board of Directors? We haven't met, and I don't even know what that is.
I'm guessing that's the local advisory committee. I think that it was,
Okay.
yeah, when I was on the city, that there was a name clarification with that because
Okay.
the advisory committee doesn't actually
Okay.
make the decisions. They pass it on to the Duluth.
And so on the list that County Administrator sent out, they are listed there. And we'll just eliminate Cook County Community Local Branch Board of Directors, and then it would be Cook County YMCA Advisory Council, and then Duluth Area Association Board, and then Facilities Committee. So that would be those 3, then that would be under there. I'd be willing to continue on that.
And there's no alternate for the other 2? And you don't have a need for an alternate?
Well, I don't think we have to have an alternate there, but the board, the Duluth Association Board appoints its own members, and I've
Okay.
been on that since the beginning, and it was just sort of a natural I should continue. But it brings up a good question, that if someone wants to be alternate, that's maybe a good idea for all 3 of these.
Can you check in since they appoint it? Maybe they,
I think we could do it.
Okay.
It's just a matter of, I've just happened to make that a priority, and if I can't do it, they allow me to do telephone conference calls.
okay.
And so I've been just doing it for so long, it's in my schedule. But certainly, it's a good point, should we have an alternate? And then we would just inform those 3.
And
Madam
Molly?
Chair? Yeah, may I make a request on this? I would request that we actually appoint a second commissioner to the local, it's called the Advisory Committee, is that what you're calling it? And the reason is I think both parties, the YMCA and the county, are looking to clarify some parts of our agreement. We're probably looking at an amended agreement coming up in the future, and so I think it would benefit the county to have a couple sets of eyes on that and voices in the conversation. I think Commissioner Bershheim's voice is valuable because he also has the big picture, having served or serving on the Duluth committee as well. But it would be valuable, I think, to have another commissioner attending those meetings. I think any additional expense that's brought on by that can be justified by the fact that, our agreement and having the county's interests served in that agreement is quite valuable, so.
So based
I
on.
agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's,
So based on Molly's recommendation, I think we should have, under the advisory, 2 primary and an alternate. And would be willing to be the primary along with Myron on the advisory, and I would be willing to be the alternate on the other 2. Does that make sense, Myron?
sure. Yeah.
Okay. And then we would need an alternate to Myron and I on the advisory committee.
Okay.
So we meet the second Thursday in Duluth every month
For the advisory committee?
for the association board.
Okay.
Is that okay in your schedule?
Well, since you said it's just part of your schedule, I'm hoping I never have to go. And if I have to call in.
Yeah, the question is, should I forward your name?
Yes, please, if I can get the emails. Yep.
Thank you.
But I'm hoping you'll never miss. And calling in would be good, because I do have a meeting that morning, so I would have to call in for that.
Yeah, and it's not good to call in. I've
Okay.
tried to do it in an emergency, and I guess that's another whole issue, that I've tried some call-ins, and it's really difficult.
It
Because
is.
of all the noise around the table, and some have systems, though, that I know now that at our last AEOA meeting, we were able to do a conference call because we just couldn't get a quorum, and they actually had a setup that worked. First one of many, but it's really hard to be participatory when you get background noise and distractions, but good point. So I will bring that forward as an alternate. Thank you.
And I'll be willing to be alternate for both Myron and Heidi on the advisory committee, council.
And as we often do when we have new commissioners later in the year, we do review this. If I'm not able to fulfill the role as alternate on here, I'll let you all know.
And then we could update it at that
Yep.
time. Yeah, that's good to have that system. Okay.
Vacation Rental Committee?
That's me. I'd be glad if someone would like to be an alternate. I've made it to every one, but
And they meet when?
we do not have a set schedule. We do have the Vacation Rental Committee permitting that is coming up where we may need to meet again, but this is as needed. I know, Ginny, you've had some
I could be
interest
on
in
that.
this.
I'll be,
Okay.
yeah, alternate. Okay, Explore Minnesota Tourism Council. Well, we have to wait for the new governor
Yep.
to do any appointing on that. Governor's Council on Minnesota Coastal Program. That's also appointed by the governor, so we'll wait on that. Water Plan Advisory Committee members and terms. We have 2 openings there.
Myron, is that the other one? That was the Local Water Management Plan Advisory?
Yeah, I just caught that. I think,
It's the same people.
yeah, and what did we call it, Cook County on the other one? Cook County Water,
Local Water Management Plan.
yeah. So, yeah, you're right.
It's the same one.
The one where I'm on that, and these are the members, but I think Neil is going to step off, but, so we should just eliminate this, and I believe, let me just double check.
On page 9.
Yeah, page 9.
Yeah, we either have to put it one place or the other.
Yep.
And I guess, really should be Cook County, but,
Let's have Elena tell us the correct name.
yeah, I guess local would maybe work as well, because it is somewhat tied into, at least for me and Elena, to bring it to the One Watershed, One Plan, which developed, as part of this process, so. Thank you for catching that.
Okay. Well, we made it through.
Motion to approve
No.
committees.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We can do a second in discussion. I make the motion to approve these committees as we reviewed.
I'll hear a second.
Second?
Discussion, comments?
Yeah, I think that we should add some that have been taken by board action, or are we going to, those are going to be retroactive. We did not include at least 2 that I'm involved in, there might be others, where Restorative Justice was a committee formed by board action, and Sawtooth Bluffs was established by board action. And so, maybe it's a point of order, I could amend that motion.
You cannot, I can,
Okay,
but I would be willing to take this motion and accept it as written, and then I would be willing to have a secondary motion to add those 2 to this list.
okay. Point of procedure, is that okay?
You need to finish the first motion.
which
And
then...
then she can, or somebody can make a second motion,
To amend.
which would be probably your motion that
Sure.
says, let's
Okay.
add these two committees
Just
to the
wanna make
next.
sure we do it
To
right.
the list for next time.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's one other too, Lake and Cook County Shared Engineer.
Okay.
We'd add.
Okay. Commissioner Dukirk made the motion, and do I hear a second?
Second?
It was seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, on to the second one now.
Okay, I would like to propose an amendment to that motion that we add Lake and Cook County Shared Engineer Advisory Committee, Restorative Justice, Sawtooth Bluffs Committee, and I think then I would, that's why it's difficult to do it now. I have been assigned to those, as well as Commissioner DeShaw for the Shared Engineer. The question is, should we have alternates on Restorative Justice and Sawtooth Bluffs? And Sawtooth Bluffs was formed as sort of a continuation going on into next year to explore some kind of, agreement with the city, and if this project goes through, then...
So point of order, Myron, you're in the midst of a very long motion
Oh,
for, for anyone to
I'm
keep
sorry,
track of.
thank you, okay.
If you'd be willing to pull your motion, I would, Madam Chair, entertain that we discuss this and list the name of participants and then accept them as an entire motion for the three, if you're okay with that, Commissioner Bersheim.
Sure.
Okay. So Shared Engineer Advisory, that's you and Bobby?
We've already added that to the list.
Okay.
In our conversation, we added that to the list previously.
Oh, okay, so all right, thank you.
We can motion it twice. So Sawtooth Bluffs, who's on that for commissioners?
I have been on that, and then it's going to continue as exploring some kind of agreement with the city, shared working agreement.
Would you like an alternate on there?
I think it would be good, yeah.
I could be alternate on that, since I've been on the group anyway, so,
And Restorative Justice, right? Is that the
Yes.
name of it?
Yeah, there's two functioning groups there. There's an advisory group that meets once a month, and then there's a group that meets on a monthly basis of those that are providing the service and part of the larger committee.
And you're the representative on that?
Yes.
And do you have an alternate?
No.
I'll be the alternate.
Okay, thank you.
It's the way the organization is right now.
And Myron, do we have to list it as two different committees or just the one? Restorative Justice?
I think it could be under just
One. So we already did Shared Engineer, so I would like to make a motion to add to our master list here Sawtooth Bluffs with Myron as the primary, Ginny as the alternate, and the Restorative Justice with Myron as the primary and Dave as the alternate.
okay. We have a motion and...
Second?
A second. Any further discussion or comments? I think it's a good idea to do this, definitely. Thank you for bringing that up. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Quick.
I
Yes,
have
Commissioner.
one more, just to CYA, the EDA one, if we could just appoint Carol separately so that that's the way we've always done it. I know we just approved it in this, but it doesn't hurt to do it twice because she was an applicant, just to make sure that it's clear that she is the one that we've selected. So I will make the motion to appoint Carol as the county representative on the Grand Marais Cook County Economic Development Authority.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Lots of redoing on that, but it's good to bring up the different areas and especially the titles to make sure that we're giving corrections to and additions to those that need it.
Madam Chair, did you want to take a break?
Do we need a break? We need a break. Yes, we will take a 8-minute break.
Minutes.
Yeah. Too much tea.
Especially since we put that in.
Yes, Rudy? Yeah, and it might not be bad to just address it. There is a name for what we do. Here's how Robert's rules describes it. There's another option, which is by.
We appointed Scott and Carol. And we already appointed Scott, so this should be updated.
Just a vague memory.
And Howard, I'm assuming is ours. So Hal is city, so we have 3 and the city
As far as
has 2.
productive.
The city does Hal and Bev. Yeah, she's
That's
city.
the problem.
Yep, so we do 3 and they do 2.
Change that to city.
Yes.
Have we heard from the license section?
Serious? Yeah, my husband grew up here. He was in the military and he retired after 20 years, so he went back home. Awesome. Yeah. That's really cool. Well, the good work for you if you don't have an accent. You know, actually, I grew up as a child in Arizona and I moved to North Carolina. Were you a military child? I hate to call them brats. No. No, that's just kind of where my mom was. Okay. Yeah. Grew up and I hated Arizona. Don't like the heat. Oh, can't say as I blame you. Which part of Arizona did you live? Southwestern. Okay. Yuma Lake Havasu, right on the Mexico-California border. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I do not do well in the heat, so. I'm there with you. Yeah. That's why I'm here. I love snow. So I was like, I need to get away from the heat. But then I ended up in North Carolina and learned about my husband. How awesome is that? No, are you affiliated with anything? Yeah, we go to the Catholic Church. It's nice. My husband spent 20 years in the Army and wanted to come home and retire and got his master's degree, and he actually works here in the courthouse. Oh, and what's he in adult mental health? Okay. That's amazing. So yeah, so he did that. He's home now. And how long has he been in that position? We moved here 7 months ago. 9 months. Very good. Yeah. I worked for a very large police department in North Carolina. I was the executive assistant to the chief. How many people were on the force? 633. So yeah, very large city. So I'm trying to get used to the small town. Yeah. My husband and I grew up on a farm. And so I was used to it. I know.
Are you ready for the big trip to the cities?
For the newly elected, that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was, oh, and then there's, is that the one in February?
No,
It's January, a couple, yeah.
23, 24, 25.
No, I'm not ready for that. I've got the other one. Oh, that's not right either.
13, 14?
Yeah, what is that one?
That's that's when we go meet with
That's the
our
that's the legislative conference.
Okay, I've got that one scheduled. I am ready for that one.
And I think I'm going on the 7th with
You're going
Lake
down.
County.
You're going down to Transportation Day. Yep. No, you're not going with Lake County, but you're going as Cook County.
Yeah.
But they're making the arrangements.
I got an email yesterday. She got my confirmation and everything. I'll figure it out.
We said, come and drive on it. Yeah. Oh, you'll know. Absolutely.
Yeah, but it's
you doing about those plans?
Bobby, good morning.
Morning.
We rode on that highway yesterday from the border, to Grand Bay.
A little rough?
Are you one of those complainants in MinDOT?
It's in the plans to get fixed, so.
I wanted to.
Oh, it's always bad up there. It's just
I was hoping to get
the North Shore.
discussion between all of us.
Put the- It's just any road and goes through.
that sometimes.
That's been a while since that's been fixed. And,
Yeah.
and
Well, I mean,
maybe
if
they
people
don't-
want to.
Yeah, there's no forcing, no.
That was
I've
probably
just talked to other folks in other counties, and they're kind of like,
18 years ago.
alternating every year.
Oh, okay.
It was paved, so.
I can see it going.
Overdue.
Oh, look
Yeah.
at this now.
Yeah.
Is this, can I pull on this?
It's your drawer.
Oh,
It's a surprise.
surprise. Things are flying out.
See, I have a full set of colored pencils.
That seems pretty fancy.
It's
Now,
all fancy.
Very nice.
And I have one of these
Big
big ones in
down.
case you need a pick-me-up in the middle of the day. Cast the attention over there.
what is with this styrofoam? Do we have a huge
I went up
crate
to
of
Thunder Bay the
styrofoam?
other day, it was like, whoa, 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 whoa.
It's a policy we can
Had to ride in a truck.
look at.
It's non-CFC
In the
styrofoam.
winter.
Had to come get a load of sand.
So the production of it was okay, but how about the disposal?
Wow.
What's that?
I have no idea.
It almost makes me
Big
ill. Just
21
like,
that's getting.
I mean, maybe it's a generational thing. I don't know, but like,
Okay.
I mean,
Well, especially
right, you
noticeable
have a
because
reusable thing,
on the
so it's like a
Canadian side, they
non-issue.
did
But I'm
their
just
road a
one.
couple years
Well, truth of
ago.
the matter is usually I come in and
Quite
I get a paper
different.
cup from Java Moose, and I come up and then I continue to use this one.
Right,
So
right.
why don't I just bring this to Java Moose and fill it
Well,
up
yeah,
first?
there's that.
I threw two
Okay,
empty
Heidi,
cups away this
so
morning.
the next meeting
Not
of
this
the
morning, the one that I
advisory
bought yesterday.
council
See, I'm-
will be
and I'm not.
Council.
for the
My
Y
discipline is not the
Okay.
greatest, but I'm of the
is the third Monday.
of the culture that if I didn't bring a cup, I'm not going to
Okay.
get it.
Committee meetings.
Oh, really?
usually,
Yeah, I'll often do that unless we're traveling or something.
I didn't know that was a culture.
4:30 and 5:30.
Yep.
So I'm that much older. It is
Well,
generational.
no, everyone has their own little cultures, I'd say.
Whoever sends those
Maybe it's
out,
just a familial,
add me to
my
the list.
interfamily culture.
And Elena's a little confused about One Watershed. She said the vice chair changes every year.
Okay, so we'll move on to talking about the meeting schedule for the Board of Commissioner meetings. We have the summary as the regular meeting of the county board is the second and fourth Tuesday of each month. And then we have meeting with the Public Health and Human Services, and then we have the Committee of the Whole on the third Tuesday at 5 o'clock.
So, Madam Chair, the Committee of the Whole in the evening was it on a trial basis last year? That was our schedule this past year. It's up to you to determine. I would ask Brady Powers to comment on how having 2 commissioner meetings a month has affected anything in his office.
We haven't had any particular difficulties.
So that in 2017, we met on the second and the fourth Tuesday, and we also met formally after the end of the Public Health and Human Service Advisory Board. So we did have 3 meetings a month. The Committee of the Whole in 2017 was something that we continued in the afternoon after one of those meetings. The one comment I would like to make about Committee of the Whole is Committee of the Whole has a specific purpose. And the Committee of the Whole's specific purpose is to take policy conversations or that have been developed in one of the 3 standing policy committees and review it as the whole body at a public meeting so that everybody has an opportunity to ask questions about the development, the background, the policy alternatives before it's brought to a board meeting for voting. The comments came from the first year and a half that I was here when commissioners were asking, when do we get to talk about these things without having to vote about them? And that's specifically the definition of Committee of the Whole. if the board wants to hold public meetings where the purpose of the meeting is to interact with the public, that is an option as well. It's also an option to make that a part of any meeting. You have the latitude to do this in any way that you want, really. But conversations about the proposed jail process, the contract that we have with Wold means that they're going to facilitate some public meetings specifically about that project. So we don't necessarily need to have those within the board structure. They will be coming up as part of that project process. So I don't know if that clarification helps at all, but what we want to do is we want to set our agenda for the planned meetings of the Board of Commissioners for the 2019 year. And the reason that we do that is if they're regular scheduled meetings, then we don't have to notice them individually. We will just publish them as a part of the minutes of this meeting, and then everybody will know what the regular schedule is planned for the 2019 year. And the only thing we have to notice specifically are changes or additions.
Committee of the Whole also gives the public a chance to address their concerns, and we respond when they appear before our board meeting.
Well,
we hear them,
yeah.
but we don't respond. And I think we started a little bit toward the end of last year. At the end, when we have concerns, we will address one of their concerns, or two, or whatever's. What's been happening, though, is the person or persons who appear before us leave. And then it's like, well, how are we going to let them know what our discussion would be on the topic they bring up? So I really encourage folks to, well, come here, yes, Committee of the Whole, yes, but talk to us individually as commissioners about their concerns, because we each represent a different district. So I think we'll try to continue that in the future, discuss at the end of our meeting something that came up, but also encourage people to talk to us individually.
So I heard two different things from what Jeff was just saying and from what you were saying. But Jeff was saying it was possible, but that the Committee of the Whole is not designed necessarily for the public input at this point. But if we want to incorporate that, it sounds like it has been incorporated.
We have
But is there anything officially we need to do?
That's what we'll discuss.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
sure. Mm-hmm.
That's certainly something I've been hearing a lot about is
Okay.
the public opportunity to speak at a meeting. And I don't know if it's an option for us.
Or conversation, you mean? They
Yes.
speak, but then
Yes,
we don't
thank
have a
you.
conversation.
Exactly,
Yeah,
thank you,
right.
yeah.
Mhm.
And, I'm sorry?
Thanks for bringing that up, Commissioner Mills. One of the questions that we've had was about recording or not recording at the Committee of the Whole. And a solution to that is to back up and bring Committee of the Whole to be, so we're done with a regular board meeting at 10 or 10:30 in the morning, we take a 20-minute break, and we reconvene as the Committee of the Whole that day. So the issue of scheduling Committee of the Whole items, do we have a standing Committee of the Whole? Because we have canceled meetings because we didn't have anything to discuss, or we had other meetings that were scheduled with specific intents to do that. To facilitate the Committee of the Whole as a part of a regular board meeting, then we're already set up, we already have the microphones, we already have the people here, we already have the recording in the event, and it's just part of a regular agenda. So Committee of the Whole could be a separate meeting, or it could be a component of one of the existing meetings.
And I believe that we talked about having it later in the afternoon so more the public could come. It's been minimally attended, should I say? Maybe 3 to 5 at any given time at the 5 o'clock meeting?
We've potentially had a few more than that, but that's been topic-specific, and those topic-specific meetings would have been held in the evening anyway. So Commissioner DeShaw recommended that we have a meeting in the evening on a trial basis, and I think that's a part of the conversation and the consideration of setting the agenda for this year.
So did you have an idea, Commissioner?
I'd like to continue with the evening meeting, so it does give the people, we have one person here, or 3 people here today. It would still give the people the opportunity that work during the day to come in the evening to talk to us.
The 5 o'clock time.
Yes.
But I would specifically ask the board to think very specifically about, that's not the purpose of committee of the whole. Committee of the whole is to discuss that. If the board wanted to schedule opportunities for public comment and public discussion, I would suggest scheduling those to be separate from committee of the whole. Committee of the whole is the process to discuss the things that have been developed in committee with the whole board. And it really does muddle the conversation when we say that we're going to provide and react and respond. If you really want to just have an open conversation for the public, schedule that 4 times a year and just schedule 90 minutes where we're just here to talk to the public.
Well, we could take it another step further, coming to the different districts, too. Commissioner.
We do have district meetings. I agree with Bobby with maintaining a continued way of having sessions with the public for them to have input and us to have conversations. I've said numerous times this public comment period before this meeting is ridiculous because they don't get their answers. Not that they're talking, they're welcome to talk, but they don't get an answer. And it does muddy up committee of the whole because a lot of times our commissioners have conflicts and the committee of the whole is shut down after an hour and the public has spent 30 to 45 minutes talking, so we get 15 minutes to go over a policy review, which is not enough time. So I would like to continue with what Bobby would like us to do with having communication with the community, but I would like us to see, going back to when we had a meeting after the Public Health and Human Services Board and have that be our committee of the whole meeting. Maybe not a regular county board meeting where we make decisions and vote on things and have an agenda, but have that be our committee of the whole meeting. And then whether it's monthly or quarterly that we meet with the public, get a feel for that for this year going forward, but I don't feel like we're getting a lot done at committee of the whole because it's a public comment period.
Yeah, I think I agree with Commissioner Dukirk. Maybe we've been trying to mix up and we get, mixed messages with how we proceed with that. So if we made it very clear, I like that concept, that we will have committee of the whole to discuss issues. And then we will have public input meetings or public dialogue meetings. And not call it committee of the whole because I think it's confusing.
Is there a way we can have responses to public comment immediately after public comment? Or does that get into legal trouble, or what's the, it could, I'm sure, but what's the problem? I know things can drag on, but.
I will just answer the question that we spent in our communications team meeting yesterday for 90 minutes and our management team meeting yesterday for 90 minutes, essentially talking about how to help the Board of Commissioners and the county engage the public and respond to the requests that we're getting. So if you would, I appreciate the questions, I appreciate the concerns. If you would give us a couple of weeks to comprise what we think would be a reasonable strategy and present that to the board as the communications committee and get your feedback on that, I think it would be very helpful. We're talking about providing opportunities at the meetings, in writing, online, just ways to support the commissioners in their engagement with the public and support the public in their engagement with the county. We really, that's our goal for 2019, is to improve our capacity to do that. And I would imagine the communications team would have a proposal or some ideas to bring very quickly. Your specific question, I think Attorney Hicken would like to respond to.
I would love some input on this subject, and I'm happy to have a private conversation with anyone on this board or address a member of the public if they want to know why I would advise not responding to public comment immediately on the spot. But I think everyone can understand that these regular meetings of the board occur so that the county can do its business. There are actions that the county board is required to take, is they're both authorized to take and they're required to take so that the county continues to run. If public comment kind of takes over the agenda, then all of those important items, which might seem boring, and, you know, not the most exciting for conversation, those get set aside. And I'll just say in general that, you know, a lot of times citizens come up with important concerns, specific questions that commissioners aren't anticipating, and they may not necessarily be able to answer that question accurately on the spot, especially when it comes to numbers or something that happened 2 years ago, or, you know, what's in a specific job description. I think it's only fair, and this might not be something that a commissioner wants to say on the record, but I'll say it on the record. I don't think it's fair to expect commissioners to have to sort their memory and accurately, in a recorded, you know, in a recorded meeting, accurately spew back exactly the information that was requested. Questions can get misinterpreted, and so they're answered inaccurately because of that. And emotions can get high, especially in these controversial subjects. So I really appreciate those who come to public comment. And I think it's really important that the commissioners hear them. But that is the specific value to public comment. It's a listening session. That is the opportunity for everyone at the board at the same time to hear what a constituent has to say. There might be a better environment in which it's a question-answer session, and that might be a lunch or a coffee or, you know, 10 minutes set aside after a board meeting in which a conversation can happen. Otherwise, I think, you know, to an individual sitting at this table, it can feel more like an inquisition. And, you know, responses can get defensive. And that is certainly not the environment that I think is healthy for, you know, accurate information to go back and forth.
And
And when Molly puts it that way, just so you know, since I've been the receiver of such comments, you know, we had a meeting where a citizen stated that I made comments during a board meeting on a specific date. And I didn't know. I mean, I could ask you, what did you say yesterday? You probably couldn't tell me. So I went and sat and watched the meeting. But there was never an opportunity for me after that meeting, at that moment in the meeting, to respond, or after that meeting to say that I didn't say one damn word during that meeting. And so everything that was stated was false. And so I see from both sides of it, I would have loved to respond, because there's nobody from that meeting here right now that knows that all of that was a lie. And so I am looking forward to our committees having a way for us to respond so that citizens can see, here was the question and here's the answer to the question. And I don't know how that, I'm looking forward to finding out how that will be, because it wouldn't have been right for me to answer at that moment on that day because I didn't have the answer. But what is the right time to answer, because they're not here for me to answer them now?
Call them up and set a meeting. Or ask them to call you next time if they have a question.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
we've said
that's
that
how you
numerous
have a
times.
conversation.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
yeah,
tough,
I think
because
I said
that's
that.
played all over social media, and it's, you know, so the perception out there is that that's what I did and said during a meeting, and I didn't. So that's where I struggle, but I agree with Molly. I know a lot of times I say we should answer people right now.
Communication goes both ways, you know, so that all of us have a website with the county for messages. We post most everything that we do here on the website for conversation that they might have a question about. But the one-on-one is really good. I mean, the misconceptions or the, I didn't know it was that way, can be really cleared up, or at least a better understanding. So thank you, Molly, for
And
that.
my main message is commissioners are human, just like everyone on the other side of the table. And so we cannot be expected to be computers and to be able to bring up all of that information or to have the perfect response on the spot. So, you know, responding in writing is appropriate, or setting up a meeting is appropriate. But allowing public comment to then drive the agenda is not the way that counties can get business done. It's just not going to be effective.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Answer, thank you. And on that note, I really support what Heidi and Myron were suggesting. Yeah, these meetings are for taking care of business, but what I see as one of the biggest challenges for us and the county is responding and communicating. And so I think it is very important to designate meetings for that, whether it be quarterly or monthly town hall meetings. I think that's a priority we should really look at.
So Jeff, I understand then you'll get back to us, you'll go to the communication committee and get back to us on some suggestions on this.
Well, we need the board to take action on setting the schedule for the year.
Right.
But as far as recommending strategies to improve public engagement and for the county and for the board and for individual commissioners, yes, we're going to be bringing some recommendations and hopefully helping to facilitate that process.
Okay. Okay, so.
Chair Bobby's got his hand up.
Oh, yes.
Who's on the communication board?
Communications committee is an internal committee. It's an administrative committee.
Who?
Valerie, Molly, myself, Rena, and Allison McIntyre.
Okay. I think one of the things I'd like to make sure, ultimately, it's up to us as elected officials to set our schedule, not the communications board.
And yes, you're responsible for determining your schedule today, and we're working on ways to support you and develop communication strategies that help to facilitate public engagement. We're not suggesting anything related to the schedule. We're just bringing up things to consider when setting the schedule for this year.
Okay, so you've read the summary of our schedules, so I will need a motion to approve the regular schedule for the Cook County Board of Commissioners for 2019.
Point of clarification, if I could, Madam Chair. I think we have two issues, and please correct me if I'm misunderstanding this, that we should consider having the Committee of the Whole after our regular board meeting, or our Health and Human Services Board meeting on the third, excuse me, Tuesday of the month. Is that correct? That's one of them, and then the other is when should we have our meetings with the public?
No, right now we're just setting the board meetings, the Board of Commissioners meetings, and the schedule for 2018 was the second and the fourth Tuesday at 8:30, with a regularly scheduled Committee of the Whole on the third Tuesday at 5. So at some point, somebody's going to need to make a motion as to what the regularly standing meetings of the Board of Commissioners are. If you want to develop and facilitate town hall meetings or something along that line, those would be additional. We would come up with that later.
So
Myron, you were correct in your question.
So I guess the only question I have is, I won't refer to it, but if we set the Committee of the Whole for 5 o'clock, that is part of that's what we're going to vote on?
Or you could change it.
Or we could change it to have Committee of the Whole.
I'm just asking you to tell me what you want your schedule to be. Okay. Do you want it to be regular board meetings? Do you want to schedule regular Committee of the Whole meetings? All of that is completely up to you at this point. The only consideration was last year, Committee of the Whole in the evening was on a trial basis. So one of the considerations is to continue that trial, to continue that schedule, or to do something different with it.
And Commissioner Deschamps did encourage us to continue at 5 o'clock. Okay.
With meetings or with Committee of the Whole?
The Committee of the Whole.
Okay.
I'd make a motion to approve the meeting dates for the Cook County Board of Commissioners starting at 8:30 on the second and fourth Tuesdays of every month. The motion that I would also continue with is having the Committee of the Whole meet after Public Youth Health and Human Services. But I
support that motion.
Did you want to finish that?
It's a separate thought. It's a separate thought.
That's not all one motion? Do you want to just?
That was the motion.
Okay, repeat the motion, so Stacy can get that.
Yes, the motion is to have the regular board meetings on the second and fourth Tuesday of the month at 8:30, and have the committee of a whole meeting after Public Health and Human Services on the third Tuesday of the month. Thank you.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
I did second.
Okay.
And so for the discussion, what I was going to say is,
Discussion.
I agree, we need the public involved, and evenings are certainly better. And so I'm uncomfortable letting that go, but I trust that we will set that up as well. And so that's my thought process there, so.
And I agree with that we need to have a meeting.
Evening meetings for public, But for business, during the day is, I'm happy with that. That's my 2 cents.
So Commissioner Deschamps?
There is no business that it's taken care of at committee.
Oh, thank you, yeah, just our internal
But it will now
talkings.
be recorded as being
recorded.
after Public Health and Human Services.
That's your choice.
Okay, that's our choice. That's another discussion.
So with the public conversations and Commissioner Deschamps, we will set up and discuss how we could do that for the
Public input.
year of 2019. Does that make sense for you?
Well, my biggest concern is to keep the opportunity for the public to
Right.
be involved.
Right.
Even if it's only with the committee of the whole. They're there with us.
Right.
Madam Chair, if I could just, this is the last time I'll butt in, maybe,
It's
unless
a no.
somebody, but anyway, all of these meetings have a quorum of commissioners, which means they are required to be public meetings, and they are required to be noticed public meetings under the open meeting law. The public is welcome to attend. The public can be sitting right in the room with you, hearing what comes out of your mouths. That is fine. What it sounds like we're actually talking about is, or where there needs some clarification maybe, is when public comment occurs. Public comment has always been part of our regular meetings before the meetings, and I apologize that I don't often make it to the committee of the whole meetings because they're in evenings when I'm caring for children, et cetera, and have other obligations. But so I guess when I hear Commissioner Deschamps talk about having the public involved, does that mean a back and forth conversation?
That's what it has been.
Okay.
Yeah.
Backing off.
Thank you. It's okay.
One other administrative point about having committee of the whole during the day is our staff are bringing forward these things, these recommendations, these policy issues, and as Attorney Hicken just mentioned, some of our staff aren't available in the evenings. So I would really try to provide the opportunity to provide the distinction between community engagement and conversations and the business meetings, and committee of the whole being one function of the business of the county, and that being I would just make that point, to separate those two things.
So we can be thinking about then how we want to do the community conversation at later times.
Well, I'd like it to be on our next agenda, and if we're not prepared yet, then that way we can assure that it doesn't get lost
Right.
or forgotten.
We can bring something to the next meeting.
Right.
Yeah, if I could just comment, I think it would be important that we continue with the format to meet with the public at 5 o'clock or whatever time it is, and that we schedule it, so we're not sending the message that, I think there's just some misunderstandings from what I hear in the public, that, what is the committee of the whole, and I think we need to distinguish, what is a dialogue situation versus doing our business, and so I think if we say we're committed to schedule meetings in the evening, call them communications or community conversations or
Town halls.
town hall meetings, at a minimum of a quarterly and on a needs basis. And So I guess I hope that that would be the intent of our next discussion and dealing with this. So we're saying to the public, we're not trying to shut them out or anything like that. We're just trying to improve on the situation.
Okay.
I'm just curious, Bobby, if you have any further thoughts along these lines?
Well, I think the whole point of last year when we passed this on the trial basis was to make it available in the evenings for the people that elected us, that work for a living, to be able to come here. Like I said earlier, we got 3 people here, and all 3 of them are probably retired, but.
And I would suggest that that's an important goal, but I would suggest that we actually get more interaction in our morning meetings when we're recording this and more participation, even though it's not participation, then we had people attend the evening meetings. Except when we were talking about specific things, when we were talking about the County 45 plan, when we were talking about the proposed, when we were talking about specific things, it brought different groups out. One of the biggest challenges we had last year was a confusion about what committee of the whole versus a conversation with the commissioners was. And I think if we clarify that, we encourage better participation at each of the events.
Well, and we combined it, the first 20 minutes, I opened it up for questions and comments, and people had that, and then we went into whatever we were going to discuss as far as, County Road 45 or this or that. So we combined both of them at that time. However, separating them out now probably is a good way to go, to try it that way, and then at our next meeting, have a discussion on setting a schedule for community conversation or town hall conversation.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Okay. So, are we ready? Any more discussion? Are we ready for a vote? Any more discussion? Okay, so we are voting on the fact that we're going to have our county board meetings the 2nd and 4th Tuesday of each month, and committee of the whole on the 3rd Tuesday after Public Health and Human Services. Okay. Right?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Commissioner Deschamps. Stacy? With that. Thank you. Okay. We'll move on to the consent agenda, consent items. Does anybody want to pull anything?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed, motion carried. Okay, we're going to move on to our auditor.
Madam Chair, first item is an annual approval. It's recommended by the state auditor that we designate an official depository, and my office recommends that we designate Grand Race State Bank as the official depository for county funds for 2019. That's our current depository.
Okay.
We will be, per our policy, we'll be looking at a new depository. We do it on an annual basis, or on a 3-year basis, but that doesn't happen until June. So this would go at least until June.
So you would like a motion to approve?
I would like a
all that
motion
right
to
now?
approve that.
I'll
yes.
make a motion to approve the official depository.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Second item is the designation of our official legal newspaper. And I'm just going to hand out the bid that we received. We advertised this bid and we received one response. From Cook County News Herald, and they bid the rate of $9 per column inch for each of there's some listed legal requirements, and then there are other ones beside. These are some of the main ones. So that's no change from 2018. And that's our only bid, so I ask approval of that as our legal newspaper.
Just as a point of information and clarification, Lake County pays $4.40 per column inch. We'll be paying that for 2019. So the fact that we only have one opportunity to bid, and being at the end of the line is one of the points. If it costs more to do business here, then it costs more to do business here.
Bananas are 99 cents instead of 25. That's what we were told.
Okay, so I'll need a motion to approve the Cook County Herald for 2019.
Support.
Second, you
Oh,
don't
sorry.
really have a choice.
I know. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign.
And Madam Chair, the final issue I have is the resolution approving all the other levies in the county. This is something we would do in any case. This is to collect and spread the levies, and then send that money to each of the entities, but this is a good process to document that and do it by resolution. We do that every year, so I would ask approval of those. It's the city, the 3 towns, the fire departments, and the special taxing districts, the hospital, the EDA, Airhead Regional Development Commission, and the school.
Make a motion to approve the other entities for 2019 levies.
Support.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Same sign. Thank you, Brady, on all that. Okay. Moving on to discussion with Rena and talking about the bylaws and joint power agreement. Updating. Good morning.
Morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm actually going to just turn this over to Rowan because he understands the details.
Oh, okay.
Morning.
Morning.
So what we have here is a change and edit to an existing joint powers agreement for the Northeast region. And the Emergency Communications Board is making those changes to formally change their name from a regional radio board to an emergency communications board. The other changes in there are also, it's the language around the membership, because they are formally including the tribes. So it's Leech Lake, Grand Portage, and Mille Lacs are also being included. And so because it's a joint powers agreement and because it's changed, 11 counties, 4 cities, and tribes, everybody involved needs to sign up on those changes.
Okay, thank you. So it's a change from 2010, updating. Probably about time. Okay, so I'll open it up for questions or comments. Commissioner DeShawn?
I'm on the radio board, and we kind of went back and forth on this for like 4 months.
Yeah. It really, we started looking at the regional advisory committee that reports to this board and looking at some attendance issues and how that ties to grants and recommendations. And in doing so, looking at the old joint powers agreement, it really became clear that there was some critical changes that need to happen. And both of those are what you see here today, the name change, as well as recognition and incorporation of the tribes into the agreement.
Commissioner Dukirk?
No questions.
No questions.
Commissioner Mills?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Okay, so I've had a motion and a second to approve the 2018 Northeastern Emergency Communication Board Joint Powers Agreement. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, land services. We have Bill coming before us.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Multiple items. I'm not fully informed on the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment memo that Director Nelson gave. Evidently, we have more candidates than there are positions, and so it is up to the Board of Commissioners to determine which 3 of the 4 will go forward on the Planning Commission. The candidates, we have 2 candidates from District 5, 2 from District 3, I believe.
4.
District 4. And generally speaking, Planning Commission and Board of Adjustment, we do try and distribute those similar to the distribution of commissioners. However, over the last couple of years, the well of candidates has dried up somewhat, so there are overlaps with the location of some of the commissioners and Board of Adjustment members. From my perspective, and since I am the liaison between Land Services and the Planning Commission and Board of Adjustment, I know all of the candidates, and any one or all of them would be suitable for inclusion on the boards or the commission. The big thing on the commission and Board of Adjustment is knowledge, a willingness to engage in discussions and thoughtful deliberation, and that's what we're looking for. It isn't just a warm body. We're looking for someone who can engage and represent the citizens of Cook County.
Okay, thank you. They have good qualifications, that's for sure. It's great to have that.
Correct,
Yes,
absolutely.
great to have
Yep.
that. So we'll open it up for questions or conversation. Commissioner Mills?
I don't have any questions, thank you.
What has been done in the past when we have more applicants and openings? So it is the county board's...
It is, correct, and
So
in my
I've seen
tenure,
that, yeah.
in my tenure, we haven't had that luxury. It's always vacancy, schmoozing with citizens to see if they're interested, and, you know, pretty much engaging everything besides kidnapping to bring people on board.
And just to follow that up, thank you. It would require some significant changes in the bylaws or procedures, policy regarding this to accept all 4?
Yes, and so we're looking at 3 of the 4 for the Planning Commission, along with 1 of the 3 to be duly appointed to the Board of Adjustment.
What is in place that would preclude or prevent from appointing all 4?
The bylaws of the Planning Commission.
Okay, so they would require
Yes,
an amendment?
correct.
Okay.
Commissioner Dugard?
The other problem with appointing all 4 is then we have 8, which makes it hard to have votes that aren't split. And since no one's making comment, and I'm on the commission, I'll just take up all of our time today. What we currently have seated on the Planning Commission is 3 members from District 5, 2 members from District 1, and 2 members from District 4. We have 2 applicants for District 4, so I'm just going to assume that of the 4 applicants, we're going to pick 1 for District 4 unless someone has a different idea, and then pick the 2 by default for District 5 unless someone has a different opinion. And District 4 is mine, so I will make the comment on District 4, even though I don't want to. I would like to just approve them both. But this is a huge change in number of people on the Planning Commission, and I think that it is vitally important that we have people with experience. And thank you, Judy, from District 5, who has experience being on our Planning Commission. That's very helpful. And if I were to pick, I would pick John Schlute because he has past experience on Planning Commission. David's application is wonderful, and he's very well educated, and he's been to some of our planning meetings, but he doesn't have as strong a history in planning and zoning as John Schlute. So I would lean towards John Schlute for the recommendation for my district, but obviously we could pick both in my district and only one in District 5 if that's the board's wish.
No comments.
Well, in looking this over in District 5, on the Board of Adjustment, Judy Machenbacher has a real estate background, which I think is really helpful when it comes to that. And so I would be looking at having her be part of the Planning Commission.
There's 2 for your district.
Right.
Are you recommending Greg also, or?
Greg is new to the community, and I think he has been to a couple meetings.
Mm-hmm.
He's a businessman in the West End.
I guess if I, and this is just because I happen to know and have worked with Greg Mueller, and so I can speak highly of him, in my experience with him. But that doesn't mean that John Schlute doesn't have that. So this is why this is sort of problematic in selecting these people, because, but if you would follow the logic of who we support and who we don't, then I would at least support Greg because I know him, and he would be a good representative.
Madam Chair, if I could ask a question. Bill, can you speak to the composition of the board if we follow Commissioner Dukirk's logic or line of reasoning that we would, so the board would be 2 members from District 5?
It would actually be 3.
3.
Okay.
Yes.
So what, can you speak to what the composition of the board would be if we followed Commissioner Dukirk's
It would remain the
recommendation?
same. It would still be 3 and 5, and 2 and 4, and 2 and 1.
Correct. Yeah, we have currently Don Fair represents District 5. So Greg and Judy would add to that number, and we'd be at 3. For District 5, out of a 7-member Planning Commission assembly. Board of Adjustment, we're at 5 members, and one of those out of the pool would go into the Board of Adjustment. I mean, does it, truthfully, I've done many Board of Adjustment Planning Commission meetings. The critical factor is thoughtful deliberation and dialogue. And I think you can do that regardless of whether there's a skew in the landscape representation.
And I'm comfortable with District 4 still having 2 representatives. It just makes it that I have to pick or tell you my recommendation, which I did. And it sounds like we have more support for Greg, so it sounds like we're sticking with 2 for 5 and 1 replacement for 4. And I would be willing to make the motion to appoint Judy Machenbacher, John Schlute, and Greg Mueller as the Planning Commission newly appointed.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Molly?
Madam Chair, can I ask for clarification? You, Commissioner Dukirk, you are asking to change the composition so that more than, okay, you are not?
Nope.
Thank you.
Okay, we've had a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I wonder if David Roll is interested in the Parks and Trails Commission.
He was told there was an opening.
Huh.
Maybe you want to talk to him.
Okay, there you go. Any further discussion on this motion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Motion carried. Okay.
Madam Chair, there's a second component
Yes.
to this
Correct.
piece.
Right.
And that, Administrator Cadwell did point this out, that it is an issue of bringing one of the Planning Commission members into the Board of Adjustment. Director Nelson has designated Adam Treeful as that transfer, so to speak. Adam is familiar with the process, he's familiar with the meeting agendas and that sort of thing. That's great. And the other issue is bringing one member of the Planning Commission into the Board of Adjustment. I believe that's...
So it's to promote the longest-served current Planning Commission member, Adam Trefel, to the Board of Adjustment, and one of the 3 people that were newly appointed to the Board of Adjustment to round out the 5. Is that correct? That's how I'm reading this.
That would be my interpretation as well. Thank you for clarifying that.
And are all 3 applicants that we just approved willing to serve also on the Board of Adjustment?
In the materials included, it says that John Schlute and...
Judy, with both.
Yep. I've only spoken to 2 of them, but John Schlute and Judy Matschenbacher had indicated their willingness to serve additionally on the Board of Adjustment.
Okay.
For a question then again, talk about balance, can you provide the membership of the current Board of Adjustment?
It's Commissioner Fair, District 5.
Is he the one that's...
He's already on.
Okay.
Yeah. Charlie Laboda, District 1. Jerry Hineker, District 3. There's just this blank.
And Adam is from, Adam Trefel
Adam
is...
is District
4.
Okay, so we've got 5 and 4 represented, and we've got a choice of an additional one from 5 or 4.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, thanks.
Okay, so we have 2 that are willing to serve on that. Let's open it for discussion. I guess I would say, since Judy has, extensive background on real estate and living in the county all these years, that she has a good handle on things that would come before the commission, before the board, so that's my take on her. Anybody else? Yes, Heidi.
Just to follow the order of how we've done it in the past, when you look at the Board of Adjustment, you have in the past, Ginny, had 2. That's what we're losing. We're losing 2 from District 5, and we're losing 1 from District 4. Okay. So I would support your feelings on this when you state that you would prefer we appoint Judy, because Judy would replace 1 that we're losing from your district. Okay. So I'm also comfortable with that.
Okay.
Well, I'll make a motion to appoint Judy to the Board of Adjustment.
And Adam.
And Adam.
And Adam, yes, thank you.
Support.
Okay, did I hear a second?
I seconded it.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Did you get that? Okay. Just put your hand up if we're talking too fast, or we get things muddled and we have to go back to the beginning. It's a long, long meeting here today. Yes, Bill, continue.
Thank you very much for that. What we step into next are 2 annual reviews, not renewals, but reviews of 2 existing conditional use / interim use permit processes. The first is the gravel pit conditional use permit process, which includes conditional use permits for gravel extraction, crushing, washing, that sort of thing, which originated back in 1995, and the most recent supplement to that process was in 2012, or actually 2014, with the Bouch renewal. Out of the 11 permitted gravel pits in Cook County, the site reviews were favorable for approval of the review for 8 of those sites. 3 of the permit operations, including the Laboda operation up on Arrowhead Trail, the Rick and Randy Nelson up on Thompson Creek, and the Tim Matheson pit on Cliff Creek off of Highway 61. We need some more time to complete the review for a couple of reasons. One, we did have 2 noticeable violations at the Matheson pit, including skirting around the hours of operation, which are designated in the original conditional use permit. Also, the failure to notify the adjacent property owners prior to initiating a construction project in the pit. We were at the Planning Commission and had a long dialogue with the adjacent property owners who were affected. Tim Matheson is going to fly up from Arizona to come to the Planning Commission meeting next week to engage in dialogue so we can get this resolved. He admits that there were, Northland came in and had their operations centered at his pit for the Mineral Center Road renewal. So there were a lot of issues that came into play. I went out and ceased and actually engaged in a cease and desist on Northland once I found out about this. And we didn't have any idea that this was going on in our office. But once we did, both Northland and Mr. Matheson were very compliant and willing to work with the neighborhood. I think it foretells a really good solution and discussion, which is really all we can ask for in this. And just as an aside, the Cliff Creek pit is surrounded by R1 zone district, which is besides Lakeshore Residential, is our highest residential zone district. So there has to be a give and take in this situation, and I think the discussion will affirm that. Rick and Randy Nelson purchased their pit in 2012 from Bill Schoberg, or in 2008, excuse me. And there was a 200-foot buffer established from excavation of within Thompson Creek at 200 feet. And they got within that 200 feet this year with their excavation. Rick and Randy have been apprised of this, and they have agreed to work with us to restore that excavated area. It doesn't affect the creek, but you know, you look at it in black and white, and it's a violation of their conditional use permit. And so we have two options. We can either rescind the permit, or we can work with the contractor to repair the site and continue with the production of a pretty valuable resource in Cook County. So that's a favorable conversation that we've had. The third are with Dennis and Charles Laboda up at the former Clarence Kemp pit. And they actually, they were, got a little overzealous in some of their excavation. And what we asked them to do was to reestablish some of their barriers which were necessary prior to excavation, to also verify that their open space area is within the 5-acre constraint, and to do so within a timely manner. Charles was in my office last week. We're on schedule to get that addressed pretty immediately. They also acknowledged that they did get into some areas prior to meeting the conditions of the permit. So yes, 3, you shouldn't have done that, but also 3 will work with you to facilitate the compliance with the permit process. So the reviews are such that the Planning Commission asks that the reviews be approved for the 8 compliant pits, and also that we will come back to you at some point in the future to get the 3 delinquent pits back into compliance, and you will be apprised of such when it occurs, presumably before the construction season begins in the summer.
Okay, it does make a difference when it's in a neighborhood.
Correct.
That's for sure. Okay, so we'll open it up for questions or comments. Commissioner Mills?
Thank you for working with the property owners who are not compliant. That's really great to see, you know, when wrongs are done, that they can be amended and instead of just cutting it out. So I appreciate that.
Commissioner Bershine?
Well, I want to thank you because you do deal with some difficult issues, so you should be commended for trying to work to resolve these things. So I thank you for that, Bill.
Commissioner Dukert?
I'm pretty sure these gravel pits were active and there prior to people moving next to them. So I get some complaints in my area of dust and noise and jake breaking and other things for the pits that are in my area, and it's unfortunate that that bothers people's peace, but our highway department needs gravel pits, and a lot of our businesses need gravel pits, so it's unfortunate that that's in conflict with people's quiet time, but you can't open a gravel pit everywhere. There's only certain places in our county that have it, that we can do it, so.
Commissioner DeShawn?
Yeah, I was reading some of the letters from out that way. I actually hauled out of that pit during that project for a few days, and I believe the people that wrote these letters, I was ready to pull into the gravel pit with a side dump, and they proceeded to walk across the road. If they could have went any slower, I would have had a half a mile of vehicles behind me.
Right.
You know, it kind of works both ways here. And gravel is a pretty valuable resource in this county, and lack of. So.
Well, especially with that project too. Center Road was pretty critical, and it had a pretty well-defined time constraint attached to it. Winter came early again this year.
Yeah.
So
I think we talked a little bit about it at the highway meeting the other day with the county engineer too. There, you know, if you want the project done fast, it takes a lot of trucks to move gravel. So I think the day I was hauling with them, there was 24 trucks hauling. So.
Wow.
Wow. Well, thank you for getting all this sorted out, and we'll expect then an update on the 3 delinquent areas within a month or 2, maybe?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Very
So
good.
there's no motion on any of these?
You can do a motion to
Just
approve
says
the
review.
review. It doesn't have any implication for the permits.
So you've asked us just to accept this area of delinquency and the fact that there are many that are compliant.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Very good.
Thank you very much. The next item is a home business interim use permit, which was somewhat challenging. It's up on County Road 44. I saw watching remotely this morning that Steve Frickman was in to comment on this. He and his wife Sharon established a home business, an art studio, gallery. They're both artists. They've had businesses including landscaping and that sort of thing. And they wanted to establish this as a commercial operation, which in the FAR 3 zone district requires a conditional use / interim use permit. So in the process of doing that this spring, we sent out notices as required by state law and received some feedback. It was fairly contentious in some areas, but pretty much a lot of lack of concern, so to speak. So the Board of Commissioners, Planning Commission approved the interim use permit with the requirement to do an annual review through 2021. And this year's review, if you looked at the documents, the Frickmans provided some really specific information. I believe they ended up with 384 visitors to the site. Most of those focused on the Fall Art Tour, which is a very visible product in Cook County in the fall. So what we did as part of the review is we sent out, our office sent out questionnaires to 31 adjacent property owners. Our conditional use permit requirement is only 10 adjacent property owners within a half mile or a quarter mile distance. But to fully gauge the impacts of the home business, we sent out questionnaires to 31 adjacent property owners with the intent of encompassing some of the different areas that aren't immediately situated next to the Frickman property. We received 2 comments, one from Betsy Bowen in support of the review or the operation, and one in opposition from Myra and Mike Schlemeski. From our perspective at Land Services, the Frickmans did everything they were asked to do. And in that case, given the remote location, we didn't have, there's nothing that they did that would even comprise consideration of not approving the review. and allowing them to continue with their operations. They've been very easy to deal with. They have widespread support. So the recommendation from the Planning Commission to the Board of Commissioners was to approve the review and allow them to continue with their home business operation, with the understanding that it will be reviewed again next year and the following year.
Thank you on that. So it will be reviewed, looks like up to about 4 years each year?
Through 2021, yes.
Okay. I did go up there a couple of times during our tour and visited with them, and drove up a couple times just to observe what was going on, and it seemed pretty quiet at various times that I was there. So I will say that for a comment and open it up for conversation or comments. Commissioner DeShaw, any comments on this?
Listening to the gentleman this morning, I think everything went well and better than we all expected, so no comment.
Commissioner Dukert?
It'll be interesting to see the next review because the cease and assist also included advertising. And so I know for them to start back up, they missed some advertising. So it'll be interesting to see next year's numbers.
Commissioner Bersheim?
Makes sense to support this.
Commissioner Mills?
Yeah, I live up there, and I know both the Frickmans and Mike Shimeski quite well, and have spoken with both of them to a fair extent about this issue. And I did initially share all of the same concerns that Mike Shimeski had, but from my experience, none of those concerns came to fruition for me and my family. Not to say that they aren't an issue currently with his situation, just proximity-wise. But I also know that that if I were in the Frickman's position, I would, it would make a lot of sense there. So I'm pretty supportive of them with that, and happy to see that everything is working out. It will be interesting to see once advertising is how that affects things, but yeah, it's the neighborhood is great.
Okay, so we've been asked to request an approval of this?
Just to acknowledge the Planning Commission.
That you're doing a good job. Are you okay with that, Stacy? Okay.
Yeah, this isn't a resolution.
Oh, okay. Cross that off. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay, good.
Thank you very much. Happy New Year.
You too. So now we move into employee concerns and commissioner reports and meetings to note and meeting updates.
Madam Chair, we had the one item that we added to the agenda.
Oh, yes, right. Your new one.
Yep.
Yes, okay, it was hiding here. YMCA cardio equipment.
Nothing wrong.
So we had been working with, the current contract calls out that we own the cardio equipment, that we own the weight equipment. There's a schedule that's attached to the 2017 contract. Much of that equipment is unusable, and so through our review committee monthly, we've been working with the YMCA, and they've been working hard to come up with an arrangement where they identify the equipment that they want, get a rate that is acceptable, and one of the primary components of this is that we've got a long-term warranty contract on most of this equipment, because we don't want to add our staff time to support this. So the way these purchase agreements are written is that the equipment would be the counties, because it is the counties, until such a time as Attorney Hicken talked about reviewing things and contracts and things that could be up in the air. The ownership of the equipment is one of the things that may be up in the air, but for now, it's not up in the air. It's our responsibility. So if you look at the third page, it says the hoist quote, and that is for stationary bike trainers, 12 trainers, 12 computers. The next page is the Precor quote, which is adaptive trainers, cross trainers, treadmills, upright and recumbent cycles. You see also that there's a trade-in allowance for the equipment that we already own, so they're taking the equipment that we own and proposing those rates. You'll also see that there's a 5-year extended warranty on all the pieces on the Precor list. The last page is, essentially this is replacing almost every piece in the cardio room. There's 2 or 3 pieces that aren't available through these 2 suppliers. The last page, when we talked about, we budgeted $18,000 in 2019 for durable equipment and $25,000 for future capital considerations at the YMCA. And so we directed the YMCA to look at a program to replace these pieces and do so within the $18,000 budget. And you can see that the 60-month lease proposal that they had to finance these pieces of equipment over the 5-year anticipated life of the equipment or guaranteed life of the equipment with the service warranty falls well under that. If we're at $1,041 a month for the $1 buyout at the end, that we would be a little over $12,000 a year, $12,600 a year. For the lease of the majority of the equipment that we need in those spaces. I reviewed the lease and the quote with Brady yesterday, and if we lease this $54,000 worth of equipment over 60 months, we're going to pay about $8,400 worth of interest. So one other alternative is to buy the equipment outright, include the service contracts on it, and avoid $8,000 worth of paying interest. In conversation with Emily and other representatives from the YMCA, the assurance is that this replaces the pieces of equipment that we need, that they're going to be working to manage preventative maintenance on these equipments and manage the service contracts on these pieces of equipment, and our responsibility is just the general custodial and cleaning that we're already providing in those spaces. So if I were to make a recommendation, I would honestly make the recommendation that we purchase the stuff outright and use this year's money and set aside next year's money to backfill that long-range capital asset needs that we have. So if we take the $18,000 and the $25,000 that we have in the budget for this year, we have $43,000 in 536 for capital equipment. We would have to borrow some out of Brian's maintenance budget and then put it back in 2019. But we would avoid paying $8,400 in interest.
Okay. We'll open this up for discussion. Comments, Commissioner Deschamps?
How long has the YMCA been open?
This is the
Full-time, 14.
So this is the start of the 6th year?
Yeah.
We have been responsible for that equipment since the beginning, and this is the first year that we've made any allocation for it in our budget. Even though in 2016 we did do a review and the recommendation was to start planning for future needs.
We just bought some bikes last year, didn't we?
We did not. We delayed that, and this is actually, we've been talking about the need to do that, and the number of bikes that are not working is pretty amazing. We did not buy any because we held off until 2019 when we'd allocated revenue for it. We did not have anything budgeted for 18.
Well, I'm going to come down to what I usually do come down to, is we always seem to be able to find money for this, but we can't fix our public buildings. It's just over and over and over and over. The maintenance of our facilities, our town halls, this building, everything just keeps getting pushed down the road, but we can find money for this stuff, just no problem. And with that, I'll pass.
Commissioner Dukert?
Just a reminder, we did approve 100,000 for buildings for this year, so we do have money set aside. And I have talked to Brian, and he has promised me he's going to bring us a list of what needs to be done on our buildings. So I know you're frustrated, I'm also frustrated, but we did set money aside. Haven't we been setting 25,000 aside every year?
We have not actually put that in the budget until 2019. We've
Okay.
talked about it and pulled it.
Okay.
But we have not made that.
Okay.
The way the way that was actually written, it was used, it's been used on the building, because it's not really set aside for these things. It was written kind of loosely.
Well, there's actually two components. The component in the contract was money set aside for maintenance was to be $20,000. The recommendation from CRBPS that we had the assessment of the building done in 2016 was to set aside $25,000 towards future capital needs. We have never made that allocation in the budget.
And the city's allocation to us was not broken out either to say specifically for.
The city's allocation in the previous in the previous contract was $100,000 towards the operation and $10,000 towards the maintenance.
And they've been paying that, so could that be allocated for this, or have we already used it?
We've been spending that because the language wasn't specific to things like this. It was for all the things.
It was for daily and regular maintenance. It was not
Yeah,
for future.
If a pipe breaks, if a, you know.
There's no money left. That money's been all spent every year in the current
Okay.
years.
All right.
Commissioner Bershheim?
Well, I think, we've added money to the budget to deal with some of the issues that Commissioner DeShaw's brought up. And we also have budgeted for the Y for a specific purpose, starting last year and this year. So I think, as far as the $8,000 or $8,400 savings, that's wise. And I think as long as we have, the latitude or, enough reserve to move that forward another year, this is a very good proposal.
It would likely look like, it wouldn't look like anything except for a reallocation within general fund line items under the maintenance account.
And that's a good way to proceed to save money.
So this equipment would be 4 years old, but opened in 14?
This equipment has 5 years of life on it. The stationary bikes were used when they were brought in 2014.
Okay. So the new equipment hopefully will last at least that long, if not better, because it won't be used, it'll be new, correct? Yeah. Commissioner Bershheim?
Yeah, I've been involved with this from the very beginning, and some of that equipment in there is more than 5 years old. It's very old.
So it was purchased used?
Well, some of it came from, I think, in the weight room, there was some items that came from Superior Fitness, and then the bikes came from Duluth, used. So, a lot of the equipment, and I just wanted to clarify that some of that equipment, a lot of that equipment is far more than 5 years old.
Okay. Makes a difference, too. Okay, Commissioner Mills.
Is that not an option again to get used equipment, or is that is that just kicking the can?
Honestly, from my understanding, that would just be kicking the can.
Mm-hmm.
That buying this equipment with the 5-year service contract on the Precor items is going to cost us less in our staff's time in repairing and maintaining and keeping that operational. And then we'll give the YMCA faster access to service and conditioning of pieces. Right now, if a treadmill goes down, our guys have to stop what they're doing, wherever they're doing it, and go look at it, diagnose it, order parts, and then go back and install them, and it's really cumbersome. So these 5-year, there's $5,000 worth of service contracts included in the Precor arrangement. Brady and I went through that, and $1,000 a year is 20 hours of Brian's time. And we can't afford to give up that 20 hours of time.
Right. Yeah. And it's very possible if we're buying these new, and then we had bought equipment before used, if we bought these new, they could last longer than 5 years. That's a hope, right?
From the conversations I had with the equipment salespeople, the equipment is better than it used to be, and they believe that they will have more value after 5 years than the equipment that we have right now that they're taking in after 5 years. So that's what they're stating. Personally, I think that we have to take a look at the sources and the uses, and this is one of the long-range conversations that we have to have. If the equipment is being used by members and membership is up and usage is up, and that means the life expectancy of the equipment is down, that's why we have to re-engage in some conversation about this. But the way that the contract says now, we're responsible for the list of equipment on that appendix and includes all the pieces here. And then a majority of the weight pieces in the weight room, which are just don't wear out as fast because they're of a different nature.
Well, I do have concerns about maintenance around the county, much like Bobby. And I also can see the value in buying it if we're saving $8,400. And I do know they need to get replaced, and I do know they get a lot of use. It's I shouldn't say always, but it's very often very busy there on the equipment, so.
I'll make the motion to approve this using the $25,000 budgeted plus the $18,000 budgeted for equipment and $11,000 from the maintenance budget, the $11,000 to be replaced in the 2020 budget.
Support.
Any further comments, questions?
I guess I'm just curious how that 11,000 is going to affect the maintenance budget. I know I've heard concerns about that fund decreasing, and I didn't know if there's a plan to shore that up.
That fund includes $100,000. Last year it was $52,000, or 18, 19, it's $100,000 more. And we do not have a set list of projects, but we do have more projects than we have money. So
Right.
understand that is true. I don't know that we would come up with enough projects that delaying them until 20 instead of 19, that $11,000 worth, would change much.
Okay.
Where does the service people come from to repair the stuff up for the warranty?
The Precor salesperson that I contacted was in Minneapolis.
So a piece of machinery goes down, he's still not going to be here. Till when?
The primary benefit of this service contract to the county is that conversation is between the membership staff and the service agent, and not taking time out of Brian and his staff's time. That's why we encourage them strongly to have that component built into this. And then if there's a delay, it'll be on them. I believe that we can actually get more details about that. The person I talked to also said this equipment has a lot fewer maintainable pieces, that they require less preventative maintenance, that they do operate better than the stuff that we have. Every assurance is we should have better service, better use of equipment going forward.
So we haven't then included in the service contract the fact that there would be somebody coming from the Twin Cities.
I'm not sure if the service is coming from Twin Cities or Duluth, but the person I talked to was in the Twin Cities yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah, presumably they do this for a lot of places, and they would probably come with a lot of standard parts rather than ordering them.
Okay.
So they may be faster in some ways.
Okay. Commissioner Dukert?
And that was going to be my comment. Our maintenance department, as wonderful and talented and educated as they are, fitness equipment is not their top training skill, and they don't have a pile of components and parts, whereas this agency that we're going to have, I'm sure mistakes will happen. I'm sure they'll come here and there'll be a unique situation in which a part that never ever fails will fail, and they won't have the part and they'll have to come back. I'm not going to say they're perfect, but I think, like Brady said, it might be faster.
At least in some cases.
These pieces specified are also the pieces that are used in Duluth. They have staff that are able to support that. Precor and Hoist are going to be doing training with some YMCA staff here. I really trust that the YMCA staff is doing what they can to support this new equipment and make sure that it's available for use when the Y is open.
And what kind of time frame are we looking at for this?
I would imagine if we execute this, that the equipment switch would happen yet this month.
And they'll take the old equipment, or what happens to that?
They'll take the pieces that are identified as trade-ins.
Okay.
Yes.
And the rest?
Well, not all the rest, those are the pieces that are being replaced.
Okay. Okay. Any other comments, questions? So we've been asked to approve this purchase. Would anyone like to?
Ginny, I already made the motion, and it was seconded.
Okay. All in favor with this, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
One. Okay, thank you, Jeff, on that. All right, we move into concerns, reports, meetings to note, meeting updates. Anything that we need to know about, Commissioner Dukirk?
So I just received a press release, the Grand Marais pedestrian plan. That's the committee you approved for me to be on. They will be having a public review January 11th. The public input will be collected with interactive posters, community events, and on the web in September 2018. It will be available for review online. There'll be more press releases, and the information and the links will be available to you on that, and you probably all also received this press release. So it is definitely moving forward. And then I have a question, since we changed committee of the whole and we've added it as a regular meeting after Public Health and Human Services, are we having a meeting in January? And if we are, as Molly mentioned, it's up to us to decide whether or not that's recorded. So this would probably be the meeting where we make that decision if we're having a committee of the whole.
I think it should be recorded. I think the main concerns about recording were a comfort of public speaking, and at least my intention with this was, of course, we want to enable the public to speak, but this was largely for us to be able to ask questions about the policy groups, and so I think for transparency's sake, we really should have it recorded.
Other comments?
I support that, yeah. I think we should.
Okay, Commissioner Jean?
Matter to me.
Okay.
For me, Dave, it was more comfortable for me to ask questions. Sometimes I ask stupid questions and feel like an idiot, and so when it's, so that's why I was more for having it more, not just the public. It wasn't really an intent of a public discussion, but it was just up here, we often don't have discussion because we don't want to ask the wrong question, and so it was not just the public, it was also us as commissioners, but
Well, I'll be with you. I'll be with you with,
You're not going to stop this mouth from stupid questions, sorry.
Well, no, but I'll be with you with the stupid questions.
Oh,
That's what I'm
perfect.
saying, safety in
I'll feel
numbers.
But there's never a stupid question, that's the thing. Come on.
Oh, there is.
No.
Agree to disagree.
Like they can't ask a question, but it's going to be all stupid. It's all good questions. It's all good. So we all agree then to have it recorded. Okay? All righty. Anything else?
We on commissioner concerns, or what are we
Yeah.
on here?
Yep.
Okay. I got a few people actually contacted me. There's been some job postings coming out of the Cook County Courthouse in the Human Service Department, and that they were a little concerned about I don't know if they were concerned about the verbiage in the posting. It come out of the Human Service Department, and it's in-house, Cook County out-of-home support, Cook County and Grand Portage. Isn't Grand Portage part of Cook County? Does everything have to end Grand Portage? It's just, I had some people contact me about that, and it's just,
And that's been in the local paper lately?
I believe I looked in the job it ain't on there no more,
The job was filled, maybe?
but the
The way it was stated.
Cook County and Grand Portage.
Would it be for a job both ways? I don't know. That they would work here too and go to Grand Portage?
Well, what's the difference between here and Grand Portage? This is
Nothing,
Cook County.
Right. Okay, good.
That was just, some people brought it to my attention, so.
Okay. So I'm not familiar with that. Maybe Jeff can elaborate on that, or?
I can't,
maybe
but I can
whatever.
ask a question.
Yeah, okay. All righty, we will do that.
Was I supposed to pass? That's all I got.
So you've just sent out a memorandum on,
That's-
from Molly?
Yep, that's
Yeah.
just on the nominations and election procedure,
okay, good.
and that's an attorney-client privileged document.
Okay, good.
There's nothing super special in it. It's
Okay. Should be.
It describes how our procedure fits into the Roberts Rules, and it's consistent with an explanation that was sent out to the media just during this meeting, because there was some confusion about how that process happens.
Okay. Thank you on that. So any other concerns? Updates? Meetings to note? We're starting off the new year with meetings, I'm sure, already for me and you. Just some housekeeping, Dave. When we are hopefully not having this long of a meeting every time, but feel free to stand up, get a cup of coffee or whatever to keep you going. So feel free to do that. I've been to many board meetings where people just are tired of sitting for a length of time. Get coffee, get a drink of water, whatever. We do bring treats, and we'll probably have that scheduled out pretty soon. And we like cinnamon rolls in particular. It doesn't matter, whatever it is. Heidi has a limited diet on that, so she
I'm
brings
just wondering if
fruit
we
or-
should even continue that since our meeting, I mean, we did it when our meetings were 8 hours long.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean.
Why were
If you want
meetings
to.
8 hours long? How has
Well,
that
we didn't
changed?
have a consent agenda.
Oh.
We didn't have it administered.
No pressure on that. Okay, anything else before we go to the anniversaries? We have a lot of anniversaries. Nothing else? Okay, we will go then to the anniversary part.
Do you want me to do that?
Yes.
Okay, we have Nanette Aarons at our Highway Department, 8 years. Thank you, Nanette. As I said in another meeting, she's incredibly cheerful when she answers that phone. It's a delight to call and get Nanette. Michaela Klingman in Soil and Water, 2 years. And as many of you are aware, Dave, you're new, we did have funding that she was as needed per having the funding to keep her, and we did get more funding, so we get to keep her longer, which is great. Leah Ekstrom, 4 years in our attorney's office. Jamie Green, 1 year at the sheriff department, and you all know Jamie, he's usually out front on court days. John Groth, 5 years at our sheriff's department. Andrew Hayes, 1 year at our sheriff's department. Martina Johnson, 12 years in public health and human services. Adam Nelson, 3 years at our highway department. Holly Schroeder, 20 years in our recorder's office. Brian Silence, 19 years in our maintenance department. Brody Smith, 1 year in land services. And Mitchell Travis, 2 years in land services. Thank you all for your work for the public.
Thank you. And before we all disperse, Rena would like a picture of all of us together. So Rena, if you're listening, come on. There be nothing else, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. Second.
So,
Yeah.